can't have a class election because somebody might not get elected in the hurt, and everybody's supposed to be humming and la-di-da-di-da. One of the keys is learning how to handle a bully. So you learn to stand up to a bully. Nowadays, it's supposed to be the teachers, the police, and the parents that deal with bullying, and people get bullied online, which I swear I don't understand.
Yes, turn your computer off. Just turn it off.
I mean, turn the goddamn thing off.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
Because he was bullied online. Well, he's a weak son of a bitch. I'm sorry.
But that's more of that victimhood, Judge.
You're doing it for the strong because you're trying to protect the weak. But is that supposed to be the parable is true? The weak shall inherit the earth. Not the meek, but the weak.
Yes.
Maybe they got the wording wrong. I don't know.
But one thing that you had said that really got my mind to thinking, you know how everyone harps on the 666 aspect of it. Well, how can these people be talking about 666 when the Arabic numeral system wasn't even invented yet?
Invented for 700 years, yeah.
Well, you know,
what it actually may have stood for is there was a Roman legion that had a symbol that looked like a 6. There were 3 of them in a tri-star pattern. And you could go around, somebody may have been talking about that particular Roman legion, but the whole darn thing about the devil sign is 666. How in the devil are you going to come up and, oh, this is supposed to be AD 110?
Yes.
20 AD, and you foresee that the Arabs will come up with inventing Arabic numbers 700 years from now, so 666 is a sign of the devil. You know what that actually is about?
What's that?
When the early, when the Catholic priest discovered Arabic numerology, they freaked off of this. There is a thing about the number 9. In any addition that you do using 9, no matter how many 9s there are in the column of figures you add up or in the sums you're adding up, you can remove every 9 but 1 and you get the exact same result as if you left them in. So what happens, in a way, if you do numerology, reducing everything down to 1 digit or 11, 22, 33, 44. Now, the Catholic Church had this thing about the Holy Trinity. So 666 is the middle 9 on a series of 3 cardinal numbers going up. 111 is 3, 222 is 6, 333 is 9, 444 is 12, 1 and 2 is 3, 555 is 15, 1 and 5 is 6, 666 is 18, 1 and 8 is 9, 77 is 21, 2 and 1 is 3, 888 is 24, 2 and 4 is 6, 999 is 27, 2 and 7 is 9. So 666 was the middle 9 in this Trinity series going from 1 through 9. And the Catholic Church took what came out on numerology, which is 666 stood for, that middle 9 stood for free will. So in the Catholic scheme of things, free will was supposed to be the sign of the devil, because if you were born in sin, you would do something wrong. So they encouraged everybody to deal with predestination, and everything's written in a book, and you're supposed to do as you are told, not that you come up and seem to come up with it.
You know, that makes great sense when you're trying to run a dictatorship, no question.
Exactly. So that whole thing about 666 seems to have jumped into play about the end of the 10th century, beginning of the 11th. So it looks like this is a way to control the peasants.
Of course it's a way to control the peasants. Racism's a way to control the peasants. Sexism, way to control the peasants. All these isms has everything to do with dividing the peasantry, so they can never be a unified front to ever challenge the divine rule of the elite.
There you go.
It is sad. It's truly sad. You know, I mean, and pertaining to our laws here in the United States, Judge, Do you not find it odd that we do not live as free people? In other words, everything should be legal that doesn't harm another human being. Now, if you do whatever after, everything's legal, then we prosecute you because you broke the law. Not because you may break the law, but because you actually did.
Well, yes, but here's the thing on that, too. The left used to be the ones that were against censorship, right?
Right.
Now they're the ones who promote it because you may hurt one of their little protected classes. See, that's the little secret that they've got going. Every nation, every group of people needs an outlet for their altruism. In other words, their charity. For a long time, there were two charities that thrived in America. ASPCA, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and Negroes. In other words, everybody was charitable to dogs. You see the commercials about the poor needy dogs that had to be rescued. They used to have that about Negroes. But now Negroes, the black folk, we're dangerous, so they're trying to do something else with us. So instead of us, they have a new elected class that's minority. That's the LGBT crowd, the ones that have done that because they elected to do that.
Yes.
So they have relatives that can be put in that minority. So what they do is they reserve their altruism and charity for the LGBTQ crowd, not the old black folks. And the problem with the black folks is we're still last hired, first fired, but we're first to be put in the penitentiary because they want to keep us out of the labor market. More insidiously, in any given population, you got a buildup of hostility and aggression between the people that are part of that group.
Yeah.
So what you want is an outlet so they can behave in a more cohesive fashion. Well, for a long time, black people have been kind of a vicarious scapegoat for this country. In other words, when times are stressful, black people become very unpopular. And even white folk that may have at one time talked about, I'm so ashamed of being racist, a few years later say, well, I admit it is what it is. And the times get hard. And then I have what I call the one block rule. Why don't they pick on the Chinese or the Japanese or the Mexicans or somebody like that? Well, the reason is it's the one block rule. From one block away in broad daylight, and you're coming up from the rear quarter on somebody, say you're on the other side of the street there walking away from you, you can't tell whether it's Irish, English, Japanese, Mexican, South American, French, Scandinavian, or whatever it is, but you can tell when it's somebody black, if not by their features or complexion, then by their hair. So we become the ideal vicarious scapegoat. Yeah, there's one over there. We can't hide.
Right.
Everybody else can pull their hat down over their eyes and look down at the ground, and you don't know what they are because their hair looks the same.
Never thought
but not all.
That. That's horrible. Seriously, that's horrible. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You have the homosexuals. Oh, we're just like the blacks. We went through, the feminists. Oh, we're just like everybody's always just like the blacks, And the only people in modern times who kind of throw in that book or that boat rather would be the Jews from Germany. The ones that ended up in the gas chambers exterminated because they were unwanted and unloved.
They made all kinds of change, went through all kinds of changes trying to identify Jews. Some of them weren't very identifiable.
Not like
now, let me give you something. This is an anecdote. This is in the 70s. I had briefly worked in Nashville in the early 70s. Couldn't stand the place. And I came to Memphis. Now, I would occasionally have to go back up there on business. And there was this one bar in downtown Nashville that served ice cold beer. I mean, it was really cold. And it was, summertime in the South, 100 degrees, 100% humidity. You like that ice cold brew. But there was this good old boy that not worked up, but he would always stop every evening in this one particular beer joint that everybody went to because of the cold beer. He's a good old boy. And the bartender's name was Al. And this good old boy said, Al, I done figured out what's wrong with America. I was feeling ill, and I had to take off to go see the company doctor. And I was driving down the street, and I saw all these young white kids out there playing golf. Now, you can't play no golf if you ain't got no money, Al. You agree, I hope. He said, but they wasn't working during the day, so I'm trying to figure out how they got that money. I'm working my tail off, sick as a dog, and got to go see the doctor because I ain't feeling right. So a few days later, I was sitting on the can taking the dump, and then it came on to me. It ain't nothing wrong with America except these long-haired, commie-freak, old pink old hippies that's sympathizing with our communist enemies, and these militant neighbors like Stokely, whatchamacallit, H-Rap, something or another, and that Elmich Creeper or whatever his name is. That's what's wrong with America. I ain't talking about all them colored folks, because, you know, Big O Ed come up in here and we goes fishing sometimes, and our wives be, you know, exchanging pastries, cakes and cookies and, you know, and pies and shit. You know, he's a good old guy. He is colored, you know, but I'm talking about the militant niggas and then welfare queens. That's what the hell's wrong with America. So he had an excuse, see, as to what was wrong. Now, those hippies disappeared, but the colored folk ain't disappeared.
Right. And we're not going.
But see, he can say Mexican and talk about keep them out and build a wall. But then again, I had a Mexican housekeeper, a beautiful woman, and everybody used to ask her, are you Italian?
Whoa. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand why Mexicans don't look like the scapegoat one or the stereotypical one.
Yeah. And see, you got another problem, too. Everybody wants to keep them out on the wall. But you go to California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, the sheriff is Sheriff Rodriguez. The chief of police is Chief Gonzalez. You know, what the hell are you going to do? You got a lineup for the police department for a morning inspection. You got 25 white folks, and you got 19 Mexican or Spanish origin folk. What you going to do?
That's the dilemma, Judge. That's the dilemma that this country's in. You know, I mean,
so you can remotely and hypothetically talk about keeping Mexicans out, but you don't have to be hypothetical when it comes to the black folk. What's wrong with America? And the young white boys, they like to rant about it because they like to feel like they belong to something. See, that is another part of why we have a big problem. If you want to get somebody really wired up supporting something, what do? You make him a fan of a football team. You make him a fan of a baseball team. You make him a fan of a soccer team. You make him a fan of a hockey team. You make him a fan of somebody's brand of stock car. And he's waving a flag, jumping up and down. It's 15 degrees. He's out there, no shirt on, painted up green and red with body paint and grease and everything, trying to be a fan. So when you make it them versus us, you put somebody on a team, you give them a cause, and they not only are strong supporters, they become zealous supporters.
Yes, extremely.
So what we do is serve as the them for those, or those for the them, who look at it as them, those, and us. Now, our main problem is, I said this in this video thing, race war. By the way, black folk didn't come up with the term. That was this dude that started that organized that Charlottesville, Virginia thing a year ago. He came up with the term race war. It also was used a few years ago in South Park with that little fascist fat boy on there, Eric Cartman, is always trying to start a race war.
Yes,
Did you ever watch South Park?
Yes, I have.
The rich person in there is the one black kid, and his name is Token.
Yeah. Yes.
And they got the little Nazi who doesn't have a daddy because his mama was a hermaphrodite, and his mama was actually his daddy. And he's one sick puppy going around emulating Adolf Hitler, stomping around with a swastika on his arm, talking about kill the Jews, and always trying to start a race war with Token.
You know, is that, you know how a lot of folks always talk about the Jews? You know, the Jews are running the, international banking. The Jews. And the funny thing, the Jews that they're talking about are European Jews, are basically white-looking men, all right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the point of that?
You had an oppressed minority. By the way, there's an interesting thing about that. If you look at what Jews have done vis-a-vis their choice to have a religion, and the choice a lot of them have of not being perceived as part of that list of religion, they have taken oppression and they have used it, the isolation that they found themselves, to get very cohesive and control money. They're lawyers, they're doctors, they are scientists, and they control a lot. Black people might want to look at that.
I see what you're saying. Because they preserve, even though they're not the Jews written of in the Bible, the true Semitic Jews, they're Ashkenazi Jews or whatnot, but they use that as a tool. It's just a tool.
They make a good role model. Think about it. They were oppressed generally before Europe even discovered Africans as potential slaves. The only exposure they had is a lot of the Roman legions were made up from legionnaires they'd recruited directly from sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, if you analyze an Englishman today, he's got a lot of African in him, because if he's a long-term, true Anglo-Saxon and he's got deep roots in England, well, the last 3 legions that they pulled out of England in the 410 AD had been recruited from the Sudan.
Oh.
So all of those legionnaires were there for 60, 70 years. They got sent there, lived there, died there. They were getting a whole lot of Celtic nookies. So when they left, there were actually a lot of black folks floating around, in terms of, they looked like they would look in America.
Right.
Now there's another influx of Africans. 1743, England freed its slaves. They had 1.5 million slaves in England, but they didn't deport them. They were in Liverpool, London, and places like that, and they interbred with the English. So that's a second dump of African genes that you get in the English population. So in the late 1700s, when you got a lot of English settlers who were the commoners who weren't making it too big in England, they came over to America and they had a big percentage of African in them anyway, even though they lorded it over the directly from Africa slaves that they kept to work on their plantations. And then there's another little influx of African in there. Ferdinand and Isabella, we hear about them for financing Columbus in 1492 and his explorations that lead to the Americas, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, the House of Seville and the other one represented by the other one of those two, they unified Spain at the end of the 15th century. And what they did is they gave the Moors and the Jews a choice, either convert to Catholicism or leave, or for the Moors, since they had an excellent cavalry, become part of the Spanish army. So the Spanish had a thing in the lowlands, the Netherlands, Belgium, Holland, etc. And they were antagonistic to England. Now, a lot of them went over to Scotland and Ireland to buttress the Catholics when they started getting that Protestant Reformation. So meanwhile, you got Torquemada in Spain that starts an Inquisition that lasts for the next couple of hundred years, and the Inquisition was to see if you had reverted from being a new Catholic back to being a Jew or back to being a Muslim. So these folks had it in their best interest not to go back to Spain. So a lot of direct Moors who had a lot of West African in them settled in the lowlands. And there was a great exchange between England and the Netherlands at that point in time. So England got 3 doses of black Africanism from the Roman legions way back, from this influx of Moorish mercenaries in the 15th and 16th centuries, and then in the late 18th century when they freed the slaves.
Wow.
So you got, if you analyze your typical Englishman, his DNA has got a lot of black in it. Now, we've got a princess, a black American who becomes part of the royal house of England. She's Prego now. So she got married by one of the princes, but she's not the first. Remember King George III, the one that was the king of England, who was a little nut, the monarch when the 13 colonies got free and became the United States. We studied King George III, right?
Right.
Well, in every damn English history book where they are being salacious about it, they criticize King George for marrying a half-African woman who became Queen of England.
Wow. I mean, I knew about Charlotte McNamara, you know, that Charlotte County, or Charlotte, the city in South Carolina, was, named after, but I did not know anything about King George.
Yeah, well, King George's wife, the Queen of England, was half African. Her father was, in fact, an English nobleman in line with the throne, related to the throne. So by hook and crook, his child or children, male or female, were entitled to be royal, queen or king. Well, he didn't have any sons. He had a daughter who was King George, but she was half African because he took a Sudanese woman he met when he was sojourning in France. We have heard that before. Have you ever had a Three Musketeers bar?
Yes.
Hail the Two Cities, Scarlet Pimpernel. Famous stories. A cask of Amontillado, that was written by Alexander Dumas. Now, Alexander Dumas in his memoirs talks about all of the French nookies he got because he was so popular, because he had a big thing, because he was half Sudanese, half African, and he talked about all of the appeals that being a half African had for all of these French ladies. He talks about it.
Wow.
See, so there's a lot of mixture in there. There were some duels that were fought in World War I because they had these Southern American generals in the U.S. Army from Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, and they wanted to look down their noses at this Frenchman who obviously got black in him, and they tried to treat him like they're an American black. And the guy took a glove, slapped across the face, and said, "We're having a duel tomorrow morning, because my father was General so-and-so, and yes, my mother was from the Sudetenland, or the Sudan. Not the Sudetenland, from the Sudan. Sudetenland's in Europe, but from the Sudan. Or Algeria. Or West Africa. See, the Germans even had a problem with that. They didn't like it if you had any Jew in you. But father was a colonel in Prussian colonel or a Prussian general in the German army, and he was on assignment to the German colonies in Africa, and he decided to take a black wife. So you come back hard colored, but you are, you know, the son of a good German, and they don't have any dogma about what to do with color. German had his colors before World War II.
But I thought Hitler killed the Rhineland bastards.
No. See, you can't see? Okay, if you got a Rhineland bastard, that's one thing. But if Daddy was a Prussian general, and you were born in 1910, 1911, 1914, you know, and you are of good Inca stock, they're not going to kill you.
Wow.
There was a famous half-black actress that Himmler had a thing for in World War II.
Well, see, I also heard during World War II, there were black soldiers actually conscripted out of some of the German colonies that you mentioned down in Africa.
Exactly. And they had a thing with the some of the forces out of Islam, too, out of Algeria and not Algeria, but out of the Middle East and Palestine and places like that in Turkey. So you got a Turk with a fez on, and he's a special guest of Adolf and Heinrich Himmler. What the hell are you going to do with him?
See, that's the problem, Judge. I mean, like, when you take basic brainwashing that we heard or learned about World War II, they make it seem like Hitler would never associate with any non-white. He would never do any business with any non-white, you know, which is kind of odd because they were doing business with the Japanese, which are obviously non-white. But, you know, from what I've heard or spoke to some of my Asian friends, that like out of the Asian diaspora, the Japanese are often some of the more racist leaning Asian communities out there.
Well, yeah. Now here you have a long-standing history between Turkey and Germany. It prospered in World War I. Turkey and Germany were allies, and in his World War II, you've got a Turkish potentate, and he's on your side supplying troops and supplies and oil and stuff. What are you going to do?
It's way more. But see, after giving that information, Judge, now the modern pickle that we're in becomes more focused. You know, you see why. Who is that? Genocide of Syria. You know, there was a few years ago, there was a story that he was basically reading Mein Kampf and taking some of the ideals out of that. And then when we look at some of the nations like Argentina and Brazil, where we know that some of the Germans left after World War II and took up residence down there, now you can understand during like the drug years back in the 80s rather, how they were able to form secret police to gather up dissidents and put them to death. They learned those tactics from the SS.
Let me give you a famous example. Raquel Welch. She's a fellow alumnus of UCLA, where I went. She had the hots for Jim Brown for a long, long time. She even talks about it. Now, what do you think Raquel Welch is? German?
See, because I know these people love to change up their names, but I know what she looks like. I would say German or Sweden, Nordic for sure.
She's Hispanic.
Hispanic?
Yeah, from Argentina.
Wow.
I've got a tailor, makes great suits, C.C. Myers. She's from Argentina, speaks fluent Spanish. Habla español muy bien. But she's blonde-haired and blue-eyed because she's got a lot of German in her.
Wow.
Myers, German name, but she was born in Argentina.
So, you know, Judge, you lived and you've seen so much. You know, the people, you know, I know we can't really get too deep into it, But the people that actually killed Martin Luther King, what repercussions did they do? I mean, what, like...
There were no repercussions suffered, because I'll just go to the punchline. The FBI supplied the weapon that was used to kill King. They supplied the ammunition. It was most likely a two-man hit team. It was not the mob, like a lot of people are talking about. It was some reservists who had done a lot of time in Vietnam and who were snipers. You don't have to go through a whole lot of changes. You just call them up and say, all right, we got a trigger job for you. This is the layout. This is what we're going to do. The weapon in question was an XM21, which is a converted M14 with a special stainless steel barrel made by the Army Marksmanship Unit. They made an initial batch of about 62, 63 of them. In late December 1967, the FBI got 5 of them by invoice. The military wanted them back badly, and in late April 1968, they demanded an inventory, and the FBI claimed they had lost one. The serial number of the one that they lost is the one that shot King. There was 5,000 rounds of special subsonic ammunition that was also secured by the FBI on invoice. It had an interesting characteristic in that part of the case was filled with epoxy resin to reduce the capacity of the case because they wanted to download it so it was subsonic. The bullet they pull out of King's body has, guess what, epoxy resin on the base, and it is a special custom bullet. Several batches of ammunition were loaded by Spear and Sierra bullets, which were not loaded in any factory ammo at the time. The bullet they pull out of King's body has a rate of rifling twist of 1 in every 11 1/4 inches. These special barrels were 1 in 11 1/4 inches. Ray's rifle, 1 turn in every 10. Every other 308 in America had 1 in 12 inch or 1 in 10 inch rate of rifling twist. That's what the murder weapon was about. It was supplied by the FBI. Edgar Hoover personally issued an order to call off auditory and visual surveillance of King for the first time in years, 48 hours before the shooting. It was a setup. They killed him. Wow. They had weeks during the proceedings in front of me in my courtroom. We had copious memorandums where FBI was discussing whether he should be killed, because what was going on is 1968. The Tet Offensive. Everybody was getting passed up, pissed off, weirded out about the Vietnam War. Walker Cronkite had gone over there and investigated, and the Tet Offensive was designed to show the American public that they were being lied to. The war was not going well. So they were worried about King galvanizing the anti-war movement and revitalizing the labor movement. So they killed him.
Wow.
They had 4 or 5 alternative scapegoats: Gower, Big This, and the other, and Ray. Ray wasn't even in town, according to the Memphis Police Department, and they didn't want to charge him. And he never confessed. He always said he was not guilty. But he was pleading guilty because of what they call the Alford versus North Carolina principle, which is you can plead guilty even if you aren't, if you think it's in your best interest.
But how would be sitting in jail in this man's best interest?
Well, he was a 3-time loser, and they would have given him the death penalty. In those days, they were electrocuting people in the state of Tennessee.
Oh, I see.
And he thought they were going to come to get him out of there.
Wow. So,
the shot, by the way, did not come from the flop house. It did come from the bushes. It came from the fire station. The weapons were issued with an aluminum metal case that looked like every other equipment case you find on a fire truck. So what happened is they shot him from the fire station dormitory cafeteria, which was directly across from the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, about 40 yards away. And the fire station, and several hours later, it was removed, and nobody paid a bit of attention. The FBI never interviewed anybody at the fire department. They had one black fireman there, and they told him that his son had been critically injured, so he took off to go check. Turned out nothing had happened to the boy. He calls back up to say he's coming back. They told him, don't worry about it, take the day off. They had 6 black sergeants or detectives that formed the security guard for King, and they got ordered to leave King's side because there were threats received against their lives. They didn't want to leave, but a captain came down and ordered them directly face to face, and they had to go, they felt. There was one other black cop who was on overwatch at the fire station. He gave us an affidavit that he refused to leave, so they sent 2 squad cars, 5 white cops each squad car. He says they double handcuffed him and hog-tied his legs with a rope and threw him in the back seat of a car and removed him forcibly.
Wow.
There were, in fact, 2 film crews on the roof of the fire station. They say they took film that was good quality. They don't know what it happened to it. They just turned it in like they were ordered to do.
So it was destroyed. It was obviously destroyed.
It may not have been destroyed. They didn't destroy the memorandum that was discussing killing King. They had a Center for Assassination Record and Evidence Reviewed. It was set up by an act of Congress in 1990. George W. Herbert Walker Bush, the late, signed an order, presidential executive order, enabling it. And then Bill Clinton signed one, too. Now, it used to be on 14th Street in downtown D.C. Now I understand it's out in Maryland. But they used to have a situation where you would walk in and make a formal request, pay your fee, and they would research and provide you with certified copies of the documents.
Judge, this question is pertaining to law and order, okay? The government does not have rights. It only has authority, correct?
The government does not have rights, but it has power.
Right. Power or authority. And isn't it true to say that the government's power or authority should never really supersede the citizen? And in other words, me as an American citizen or United States citizen, I could technically go out and arrest a person that I see doing wrong. It's called a citizen arrest, right? Police officers use that same rights in a professional capacity, being a basically deputized citizen. But we
they're
all
something
share that right.
slightly different. They're called officers in the same context that military officers are denoted as officers versus enlisted men.
Oh.
They have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and to accept the commission as representing the United States. An enlisted man accepts the oath and he is brought in to fight for the United States. When he takes the office of officer, whether it is in law or with the military, he becomes an agent and representative of the government.
Right.
See, a government cannot act except through its representatives.
Right. Right. And my thing is, why does it seem like there's this movement or brainwashing deal to have the citizens believe that the government actually has rights versus authority? Because authority can confine within the Constitution.
Well, it gets confusing because of popularization of this idea called victims' rights. There's no such thing as victims' rights in the criminal law. A victim is merely the best witness to the commission of a criminal act. What is a criminal act? It is universally defined in America either for a state or the federal government. It is something that is sufficiently against the public peace, dignity, and order of either the state of New York, California, Tennessee, etc., or of the United States of America, as to merit somebody's attention to determine whether the individual entity or persons who committed this act should have some of their property interest in themselves stripped or restricted. Now, what is property? In America, you own nothing. You are not permitted to own anything tangible. but you have ownership of the intangible right to the exclusive use of something, including yourself. Everything that's in this country, including the population, is a resource of the country. In other words, that's how they used to draft. You became a fighting resource or a manpower resource of the country. So what happens when they have a criminal case against you where there's probable cause established that you did something against the public peace, dignity, and order, egregiously enough to bring it to somebody's attention, what goes on is that they have a proceeding to determine whether beyond a reasonable doubt you did this. If you did, then the property interest you have in directing yourself will be restricted. You may be put on probation, house arrest, you may be put in a jail or a penitentiary, and your ability to control your own activities is restricted. They may decide to extinguish you and execute you. But victims only are witnesses. Now, victims always had a remedy, civil law. It's called a tort. When someone commits a crime against an individual, a tort is against that individual. And you allow that individual to proceed civilly for money damages and a bribe so they do not take matters into their own hands and get personal revenge, which is more disruptive of the public peace, dignity, and order.
Yes.
But the new thing with ignorance, starting about 30 years ago, was victims' rights, which is no such animal, so they try to accommodate that in the law, and they dumbing it down a whole lot. So, it is what it is. But the whole 9 yards is that maybe it's not in somebody's best interest to lock this person up, and when you know, not somebody's, but the country's best interest. They had a few examples in World War II. In other words, the judge could have locked this person up for a long, long time, but said, go join the military and you won't get locked up.
Yeah.
Well, there was at least one instance where somebody was with Patton's Third Army and he took out 6 or 7 German machine guns and field bodies. He got highly decorated for the whole doggone thing, and he enabled the battalion to move on, which Patton had the battalion out as the spearhead for his army. And you could say this one guy helped the U.S. Army win the war, so to speak. So in other words, it was in the best interest to use this man as a resource rather than just locking him up.
Yes. Yes.
But right now, they have a surplus of resources when they come to labor units that they don't know what to do with, so they lock them up.
But then that's when the racial and social economic thing plays into each person's case.
Yeah. I mean, you see, you have to be, I dealt with criminal law for 35, 40 years. And see, you have to understand what's going on. We aren't out there playing Robin Hood, robbing from the rich, giving from the poor. We're stealing from the poor. We're selling dope to the poor. We are raping the poor. We are raping our neighbors. We are burglarizing our neighbors. We are making where we live a hell. So, I mean, it's like, okay, if you backed off and looked at it like white folk, it's a pack of unruly dogs down there fighting and carrying on. So you do what you need to do to tame the dogs down so they don't make a mess. And the other thing is, with cars and freeways, you can't contain them. So the trend is you get rid of them at the first excuse so they don't decide that, hey, man, let's go out there where the rich folk live, man. I bet you we can do some, hey, man, I bet you there's plenty of sugar and change out there to get, man. So you nip that in the bud. You just put his ass in jail because he gave you the excuse for robbing his neighbor. Or he shot at his neighbor. Or he's running like, yeah, man, I'm down with Patton, man. You know, like he is like this, like that, man. You know, popping up on the food for looking cross-eyed, man. You know, hey, that's the way it is, man. So you take penitentiary chances. You don't have any vocational skills. You never had a job. You dropped out of the 7th grade. You know, your mama didn't teach you anything. You don't know how to read and write well. Like Mickey D's has got this thing right now, which really is freaky. If you go into some of them, they got this program to teach them to count. So the cash registers count out loud.
You know, Judge, I mean, it's really sad for these realizations. So is there no hope for us to have a true society or country with true freedom for the individual then?
Well, one of the problems we have to deal with is the media. There are 5 things that we need to keep in mind to set this stage, and we can reverse them. But one, Caesar said 2,000 years ago, he said to keep the mob in check, and by that he meant ordinary people. Give them bread and circuses. Feed them and entertain them. And they won't care what you do. We sure get a lot of entertainments, and we do get fed well.
Yes, sir.
Second thing, Machiavelli wrote in The Prince. There's 72 pages, depending upon the translation you get. He said, "No, Prince, your subjects will submit to the worst oppression. They'll even assist in their own oppression. If you give them a chance, however slight, of becoming part of your oppressing class." So you have these Republicans who think they're going to win a lottery in 2 weeks, so they will go around pushing all sorts of things that are against their best interest because they think one day they'll be rich.
Yes.
All right. You have another thing, that's Joseph Goebbels, Nazi minister of propaganda. He said, tell a lie once, it's a lie. Tell it 1,000 times and it becomes the truth. Tell a lie long enough and loud enough and you get anybody to believe. Well, Lincoln sort of encapsulated all of the above, and he said, you can fool most of the people most of the time. Some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Right.
Our problem right now is the most and the extent of the time has been increasing because of media. Now, we have media like Twitter, where we allow the media provider to actually censor what we have, not in a uniform fashion, but slanted. In other words, you can't dead name somebody. That's slanted toward the trannies. In other words, if you call Caitlyn Jenner Bruce Jenner, you're permanently banned. If you do say anything specifically, the policy is anything that makes a trans person, this is a quote, anything that makes a trans person feel uncomfortable will result in you being banned or restricted.
Well, what about me? What about me being a straight guy?
Oh, they call you all kinds of names that don't count. As long as it's a trans person, they're immune. But if you tell them you're full of shit, then you get banned, or you get restricted, or you get blocked for 2 days.
Wow. Do you not see the hypocrisy? You know, in other words, trans people are the chosen.
Now, Twitter is pushing this one trans organization is hooked up with LGBT, and they're advocating reducing the age of consent for homosexual conduct down to 12 to 14 years old. That's pedophilia.
Yes, sir. All the way. That's normal. We're in that normal territory. That American man boy love shit.
Yeah. Now, see, I dealt with criminal law for years. I don't think the death penalty did much to deter murder. It actually, in a way, was an incentive. But if there's anybody that needs to be put to death, it's a pedophile.
Yes, sir.
They need to be executed. Now, these clowns are trying to take the filthiest, nastiest, dirtiest crime on the book and make it legal. Right. But Twitter's pushing that. Twitter is probably going to take action against a lot of people because they got all upset when this school teacher was dressing the 5-year-old boys up and making them parade around in dresses to sensitize them to the trans thing. So a black grandfather went down and jumped him. she wouldn't talk to the man until his daughter, who was the mother, came down there. So I hope they take civil action for child abuse,
Yes.
intentional infliction of emotional distress, etc., and another few things against that child. But then you have to deal with California. Now, I've seen this animation they show the third graders out there. It's been 3 or 4 years ago. The animation basically says, my big brother likes to go to clubs and dance. My big brother likes to dress up like a girl. My big brother likes to dress up like a girl and go to clubs and dance. My big brother likes to dress up as a girl, go to clubs and fool other boys into thinking he's a girl. My big brother has fun. This is okay. Now, that's going to get somebody killed, because I can think of all of the homicides where somebody discovered it was a tranny that they had, or a transvestite rather than a straight woman.
Right.
That they would take home and kill. Temporary insanity. Of course, they say, well, you shouldn't do that, but yeah, human nature is human nature.
But
there are a whole lot of things that will provoke a killing. That's even the difference between second-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. Second-degree murder is distinguished between murder one is a homicide committed in the heat of passion based on provocation that caused the defendant to act in an unreasonable fashion. Voluntary manslaughter is a homicide committed in the heat of passion based on provocation that would cause, this is the difference, an ordinary person to act in an irrational fashion.
Well, yeah. I mean...
Yeah, so in other words, voluntary manslaughter takes into account human nature. And it says there are some things that an ordinary person will kill over if you push them far enough.
Mm-hmm. But my point is,
we encourage you to maintain control because you will be prosecuted for it. And it's all about maintaining control, but we, for the last 50 years, have been pushing a policy that says it's better to let it all hang out, to be emotional, to cry, to shout, instead of being uptight under emotional control. So it's hell.
Mm. But see, the problem I have, Judge, is that in that analogy, it requires that one party is deceitful from the beginning, meaning the transsexual or whatever it is, it portrays itself to be something that it's genuinely not. Now, if I was to do that with the government, it's called fraud, and I go to jail.
Yeah, it is. But you see, it's hypocrisy because they control stuff now. So you have to understand that 85 to 90% of Hollywood and the news media are LGBT.
Right.
And it's like, what would black people be able to do if they control Hollywood in the news industry?
We could change our image.
Yeah, and if you had 50 years to do it in, what could you do? Slowly but surely.
Oh, you could also just totally rape the minds of the young for whatever agenda you have.
See, that whole thing about schools now sending stuff home that says, do not under any circumstances tell your son to act like a man because he may not want to be one. See, that's crap. You got to tell him
to be one.
But you see, it's a recruitment device.
Yes.
If you don't tell the boy what he's supposed to be, then he won't be it, and then he becomes open for recruitment.
Yes.
Now, you are a higher order primate. And part of the physiological evolution that has developed over several million years, particularly the last couple of 100,000 produced modern human beings, marched in lockstep with sociological, cultural aspects, where, in other words, a culture developed that reinforced the physiological evolution. That culture says this is how a man behaves, this is how a woman behaves. So the culture seeks to impose on the young boy, on the young girl, this kind of behavior. So they behave acceptably. But they try to block it So there is no imposition of behavior, and the child is not acculturated and socialized. It is sort of like a wild weed who is wide open to be recruited.
Yeah, because he's going to seek, he or she will seek knowledge. If you're not giving it to him, that you're just giving them to the wolves. Oh yeah, little Daisy, it's okay to kick it with Sally. Oh, Billy, you know, Johnny and you make such a cute couple. All this nonsense.
Yeah. And see, the other thing is, remember the analogy to making a man out of a boy is like making sword out of iron. You have to make it into steel, forge it, temper it. It's a long process that starts early.
Right.
You describe the boys that. See, it's going on massively because too many young girls have children. When they are children, they don't know how to. They have no parenting skills. They know nothing about men because they have no daddy. They have no uncle. They have, well, good uncle. They have no grandfather. They have no any male imagery around to deal with. The males don't protect the women. The males that they run into look at the women as something to exploit.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at manhood, there are a whole lot of men that have suffered, bled, been mutilated, really done a whole lot to provide for and protect their women and children, and also those their neighbors.
Right.
And remember the old thing, who goes in the lifeboat first?
The women and children.
Women,
the children.
There you go. Now, they want to overthrow that paradigm, which I think is not a good thing.
It's not.
Because at base, here's the secret that the feminists do not want out. The only reason women have rights today and any kind of perceived equality is men allowed.
There it is. There it is.
The women do not have what it takes, except for one thing, and these fools that block themselves off on that. The only thing women have is a bargaining chip is nothing. And most straight men, for most of their lives, throughout history, have done all kinds of things to be in a good position for the pursuit, acquisition, and enjoyment of nothing.
Right.
Now, you may have your mama, but your mama ain't in this equation.
Better not be.
So men are nice to women because they court them.
Right.
They develop the habit of courting them, and they have as a cultural value the protection of women.
And that's
promoting.
beautiful. That's what.
See, protecting womanhood and promoting manhood. See, men are expendable. Women are a resource. You can father a child on a woman and go off to war to protect her and die, but your son will still, or your daughter will still be raped.
Right. Right.
You do not do this stupid crap they do in the military now where they put the woman in a combat unit. She's a resource, damn it. That's how you get the next generation.
Yes. And not only that, it's shameful. It's shameful for your women and children to be before you as a man to be talking about fighting. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, there's not the one woman that, you know, is stronger. I'm not saying that. I'm saying typically across the board, the strength of a woman is her weakness. The strength from her is my desire to fill that physical void to protect and cherish her and the children.
It's a human thing. Chimpanzees do it. Gorillas do it. Humans do it. We are high-order primates. They're chimps, gorillas, and humans and bonobos have 99.9% of the exact same genetics. It ain't nothing new.
Right. Right. But except for this twisting or this distorting of our natural disposition. That's why I think there's so many depressed people out here. So many, you know, like the epidemic of white men blowing their brains out right now. It's because of the effeminist chipping away at our collective experience or our society. It's not normal, Judge. Seriously, it's not normal for a man to want to wake up, put on some high heels, and go out there and quote unquote conquer the world. That's not.
Have you visited Morehouse in Atlanta lately?
Mm-mm.
The dean got a whole lot of hot water a few years ago because he had an edict. He said the boys could not wear micro mini skirts with bare legs and high heel shoes and hoop earrings. So now they have on little tutu short skirts and tights and flip flops and a big bag. When they leave campus, they kick the flip flops off, put on spike heels, hoop earrings, and take the leggings off.
Wow. What?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Why is it targeted? It seems like this whole the transgender thing, or the female version of the homosexual, seems it's like it's always targeted and focused on young black men. You know, I mean,
well, you know why they push the tranny thing so hard?
Why?
Because it pushes confusion. This thing of there's fluid gender. See, that's the biggest piece of crap there. Fluid gender. They want the youth to think that they can be boy and girl at their option.
Right. That's not free.
So that means, see, the rest of us know that's got nothing to do with a damn thing except, right, it ain't got nothing to do with a damn thing except stuff that ain't what normal people do.
Right.
Now, I mean, there are people who have problems. There are people who are born crippled, who are blind, and have all kinds of things. They're called handicapped.
Right.
Challenge. So you have to accommodate them. But you don't cut everybody else's hand off because somebody was born without one.
Right.
You don't take everybody else's sight because some were born without it. But they want that to happen because they didn't like the old paradigm. So rather than trying to just change it, they want to destroy it.
Mm-hmm. And that's not good for us. That's not good for anybody, because all it's going to lead to is greater dependency on the government. There won't be no real men to lead the families. It'll be Uncle Sam.
And then see, here's the other thing too. I will say, let's just take away the Supreme Court conservative. You got a right to do whatever in the hell you want to do with anybody you want to do it, as long as they're consenting adults behind closed doors. All right?
Right.
That's what the law is. But that is entirely different from trying to impose a certain lifestyle that goes along with that on everybody else. Because the deal is you need children for the next generation. Yes. And those children must be appropriately trained. So when you start trying to screw up what happens to these children because you got a freak thing that you want to push, something's wrong with the equation.
Right. And that's why I never consider homosexual a race or a race of people, because they cannot, if the homosexual is true to their ideology, they cannot procreate by default. They have to prey on the straight men and women's children for their next generation of converts.
Now, let me tell you how subtle it is. Macy's has an advertising campaign. And there was a little thing on Twitter. Some white people said, well, what are you black guys complaining about? I don't understand. So I tweeted. I said, well, look at it this way. They've got on these real expensive and fancy pajamas. All right? No problem. You got this nice, loving white couple with 3 kids. You got another white couple with 4 kids. You got a black and white gay couple, it's inferred, with 2 kids. I mean, you got 2 single moms with 5 children and 6 children. That's been so, because some of us have moms and daddies. They said, oh, I get it now. See the imagery?
Yes. It's, you know, when you break it down like that, it almost seems like, how can we be so blind as a society to not see the play that's being played upon us?
Okay, now let me get you the really insidious part. Back in the 60s, everybody was saying, we don't get to see black people on television or in the movies. It's unfair. It causes us to have negative imagery. And there was a problem with that back then. But then they started putting black people on there. But the problem was, is they started glorifying the drug dealer.
Yes.
They started glorifying the gangster,
the pimp,
the thug, the pimp, everything else. So what they picked was, okay, you want some colored folk or black folk, so you can ID with them. Let us get some. We will glorify this function. And then they get Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey to go along further, glorifying the dysfunction.
Yes. And those guys are, those two there are open about anti-straight black male. Let's just call it what it is. They're anti-straight black males. And
then look at it. TV shows. One of the first widespread TV shows they had on was Flip Wilson. And he had to play the part of a woman in a dress. And then it went on from there.
Don't you see? That's setting it off. Boys, it's okay. Look at Flip. He's making a lot of money, and he's just wearing a dress and high heels. You can too. That's disgusting, Judge. Listen, I'm not against homosexuals, okay? If that's what you want to do, you're 20-something or older, that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I am against trying to sell this as a bill of goods to young people that we won't even tell them about the laws that will affect their lives, but we got to put this horse crap in their heads. I'm against that, Judge.
Well, me too. Now, let me say this too. Okay, I agree with you, brother. Gays have a right to do what they want to do.
Yes.
But here's the difference. Let's get an analogy, a direct analogy. Let's supposing we decided to say, well, we want to empower women. So we're going to show some powerful women. So in the first, second, and third grade, we're going to have Kim Kardashian displayed prominently, and we're going to talk up her being a lightweight amateur hoe with Ray J doing amateur porn. That's the way to get rich. I mean, for 18 years, $4.95 to $7.95 a hit in every major hotel and motel in the continental United States on DirecTV, Dish TV, Comcast, and Xfinity. You can catch her, and that's how the Kardashians make their money. So let's have them put out there for the young girls. So in the third grade and in the first grade, the boys and the girls can dress up like him with see-through stuff so they can practice being a hoe.
Oh. And how does that help society? That doesn't help the dignity of society.
Let's go further. This is what black people do. Let's have black history. So we're going to deal with the pimps and hoes. Everybody's going to come to school in the first grade dressed like a pimp or a hoe.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Now, you tell me what the hell the difference is between that and trying to dress up a 5-year-old boy in a girl's dress. Or some folks on Twitter going off about my nephew's nothing but a fascist damn 5-year-old chauvinistic pig because he tore this dress off that I put on him saying I'm not wearing girls' clothes. He's being a proper boy and you a damn idiot for doing it.
As a parent, and I urge other parents out there that hears this, be a part of your child's curriculum. See what they're teaching these children, because you don't want to deal with some whacked out teenager because they were getting wrong information in primary school. I can imagine going to school in this day and age, Judge. It'd just be too much for me.
I couldn't either. I mean, it just made me cringe. I got the creep. I actually needed. When I saw that, I said, God, what if some goddamn folk had been when I was 5 years old tried to put me in a dress? I don't know if I could ever live that down. Why would she think I would be like that?
Right.
That would have messed me up for a long time.
And just think how many boys it's messing up right now as we speak. They go down there, and I don't even want to get off into the Catholic school aspect of this thing, but just the regular, regular public schools. You got these.
Well, this is one of these Christian schools.
Well, yeah. I mean, and in California schools, that's their policy.
They put that animation out about it's okay to be a tranny and dress like one. It's fun. Go ahead and do it if you feel like it.
What kind of sick mind, seriously, what kind of sick mind actually thinks up this material to put in print or video form to expose these young people?
Yeah, just like, why don't we just go, since you glorified so damn much, why don't we just have a session where the kids dress up as pimps and hoes?
Hold on. I got a better one. Why don't we have a session where boys dress up like men and girls dress up like girls, and they have a like traditional value type situation?
Oh, they don't want that because they say you're not supposed to do it. It may thwart them if they're not that type and they want to be something else. At best, you got 1 in 20, maybe 1 in 10. And the other thing is all kinds of little boys and girls want to be the opposite sex at that age because they don't know any better until they learn.
Right. There's
privilege. The little boy wants to look like his mama, and the mama said, "Oh no, you're a man. You don't look like that. Don't you put my lipstick on."
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, see, but the mother says you don't put my lipstick on. Boys don't do that. But you see, what they want him to do is, it's okay, put the lipstick on him and show him how you do it. He should be allowed to make up his own mind. No, you don't.
See, I've heard some horrible things about California. I actually heard that like in some of their video, their sexual education, they're teaching like 5th graders and 6th graders how to perform fellatio on these things. I mean,
yeah,
totally.
Yeah, that I've heard too. But the bottom line is they don't have anything in there about ordinary sex between a man and a woman.
Right. Look, listen, a lot of that freaky sex crap, when you're younger, it's cool, whatever. But when you're in a real deal, man, a lot of that's so unnecessary. I'm not trying to be a prude here or anything like that, but a lot of that's unnecessary. Because if you understand what love is really about, and more importantly, you understand what commitment is about being in a marriage, not just some little shack up situation, you understand there's much more to this thing than just the sex act itself. Not trying to sound old fashioned, but sex really has a function and a purpose. It is to bring forth new life. Of course, you enjoy it, doing it, but that's the purpose of it. Well, we have twisted that to where it's just about self-gratification. It has shit to do with bringing in life.
Oh, man.
Nope. Hello?
Yeah, I'm despairing. See, I said 50 years ago, I said there's hope. But I started listening to all of that stuff, and I said, you know what? I got a sneaking suspicion the problem's not going to be a race problem by the time I get old. It's going to be a manhood problem.
And it is. It is. Manhood's under attack, Judge. Like I've said before in one of our first interviews, sir, if you would have rolled strolling up in your courtroom in a pink robe with a yellow gavel, then, oh, we love you, Judge. Oh, and talking crap about black men should stop being manly and shit, they would have loved you. You would have been the pre-Adonis of the situation. But because you're the man you are, and I'm so thankful, because you are a credit to manhood. You're a man that, I don't care if you're white, black, age, I don't care who you are. You can look at you and see alpha, see success, see a man standing on principle versus some limp spine, weak, a sniveling punk with money and power and prestige. It's so sick how we have taken basic common sense, and turned that into a negative, and we took in this macabre way of being and say, hey, this is the norm, because that's not the norm.
Yeah, it's bad. It is very bad. And here's the problem. See, to be a man, you got not only to have a ball and courage, forthrightness and bravery. You got to watch your homeboys back.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this thing where, okay, people prove themselves, and the more a man is proven, the more you feel comfortable with being on a mission, expedition, hunting trip, or something with him. All right?
Right.
But if he's telling you up front he's not going to be part of that play, what the hell are you wasting your time with him for? What is he good for? If you're a straight man, you can't have sex with him. You know, he's not going to feed, clothe, and cook you. What's he good for?
Right.
He's not going to help you take the next generation of boys and make men out of them. He's going to try to do something to subvert their development into men. He's not going to be part of a project. He's going to be some kind of drone creature that lets the men go out and do it to make it safe for him to be a drone.
Right. He's
now,
really
I'll give you a classic. I'll give you a classic example of that. There is a children's cartoon on that's very popular that they encourage the children to look at. It's called Doc McStuffins. It's animation. Doc McStuffins is a 7-year-old little girl, black, and she fantasizes about being a physician like her mother. They make her mother have kind of a cute face for a cartoon, but she got a Kardashian butt, right? And she brags about how well her husband can cook, clean, and keep the house. So the husband is a little useless drone. He's black. And he wears a little frilly apron, and what he does is he takes care of the 2 kids, cleans up, cooks, and does everything so his wife can fully pursue her career as a physician. He is a useless little piece of crap that ought to be dumped down a damn toilet. The girl has a magic necklace, and when she gets in the presence of stuffed toys and other toys, they come to life and she fixes them when they need repair or work. She's got a brother, and they make the brother look like a dumb creep. He's a little younger than her, and they make him look like a fool, and they make all the little boys look like fools. So I had seen this and was very offended by the thing, and then I found out that the thing was done by 5 white lesbians. And they said that they picked black because it made what they were trying to push more obvious. And I said, you slime balls, what have you done trying to screw us up even further? This useless piece of crap never even works. She doesn't do a damn thing. And then I used to hear every now and then some fool would come in front of me when I had that show and we did our operation. I'm a stay-at-home husband. I said, you're nothing but a useless drone. I'm her significant other. I stay at home so she can have a pleasant day when she gets home. You're useless. All right, let's move on to somebody else. What you have to say about it? Well, I'm not listening to you. You aren't worth listening to. See, you haven't demonstrated what it takes to be a man, and I don't know what you are. You know.
But you also think, Judge, it's maybe a situation where enough of us aren't holding each other accountable. You know, like you're my brother, you see me starting to slip, and instead of coming and checking me, like, hey, bro, you need to, get your shit together. You're just like, oh, he'll get it together, as I'm falling deeper down the rabbit hole. It's like nobody wants to get involved in the right way.
There you go. There you go. Excuse the language. Bleep this if you have to, but, man, how you making it, man? Oh, man, I got me a whole bunch of bitches and hoes, man. They take good care of me. Give me everything I need, man. My hoes is productive, man. My hoes eat pussy, man. They sit out there and they do what they got to do. I don't have no hoes. Don't eat no pussy, man, because I want to bring them all these.
See, when I was a kid, when talking about that, it used to be that girls, there wasn't no 69 business. It was all like 32 and IOU. Like to do that type of activity when I was growing up, it kind of was like, not like you're soft, but like you're a freak or it's a little bit off. But nowadays, you know, that has to be like standard procedure, you know, for a lot of people.
Well, let me say, I have a good friend. She's a comedian. Her name is Aida Rodriguez. She's really funny, gorgeous woman, got a lot of good sense. She asked me to accompany her to this fashion thing that her beautiful 20-something-year-old daughter was doing with Aunt Hauser Bush. So it was at 90210 in the Beverly Hills Shopping Center, and it was in this huge basement, right? Mm-hmm. They had like 2 bands and 3 or 4 DJs. And there were a few adults down there to go check out the daughters. So while the daughters were waiting to go on, the adults went to dinner, right? So we come back. So we're down there standing in the corner watching. They got the straight girls that are walking around half naked and their nipples are bouncing out of their little brief tops, and they got to stuff them back in every few minutes.
Oh, my God.
And they're dancing with each other. They got these, we assume, straight guys walking around with their shoulders hunched over in groups of 3, 4, 5, and 6, looking straight ahead, and they won't talk to the straight girls. What? They got the lesbian girls over here in another corner, and the gay boys over here. The gay boys dancing with each other. The lesbians dancing with each other. The straight girls dancing with each other. The straight boys walking around dancing with nobody. So we flagged down one of these young boys. I said, well, young brother, you know, all these girls are already half naked. Aren't you trying to get some phone numbers? No, man. They want a number, man. They can get my number, man. I don't deal with no babe, man. That's just a setup, man. They all messed up, man. And then we saw the girls running their fingers through each other's hair. So one of the adults says, are you gay, honey? Are you lesbian? No. Why you ask that? Well, why are you running your fingers through that girl's hair? I'm just trying to meet her. I didn't know who she was. That how you do it? You know. But, the favorite record they kept playing over and over was just what I got through saying. I got me 5 hoes. My hoes all eat pussy. My hoes all bitches. Don't have no hoe that ain't no bitch. You know. I'm going, what? We're listening to this going, what the hell is wrong with them? And nobody's got a smile on their face.
They're miserable, Judge. They're all fucking miserable. I mean, I don't mean to cuss, but, you know, a lot of that, you know, especially with the boys not wanting to talk to the girl, a lot of that has to do with the rape shit. A lot of cats are so scared that if they say hi or they're alone with this chick, all she has to do is say rape. Next thing you know, their ass is in jail trying to fight Bubba from, you know, so that they don't get sodomized.
Well, yeah, that too. We talked about that with some of them. So the adults are just shaking their heads and said, what the hell's going on? This is sick. Somebody said, I didn't realize it was this bad.
It's that bad. It really is. It really is that bad. You know, I mean, look, we got to understand. There is I hate to sound like some sort of conspiracy nut job, but there's an element in society that is hard set on, let's say, the gay agenda. They're hard set on, you know, because they can't have children themselves because of their activity, converting your child into one of them. And that's all we're talking about. And I'm not saying that makes them evil. No, that makes them, they're in a situation that they want to perpetuate their culture. Because homosexuality is not a race of people. It's a culture or a way of living, a way of behaving. So they want to continue their culture, but their culture requires new blood. See, me as a straight man, I don't have that issue. I find a straight woman, I lay with her, boom, 9 months. Trust me, it happened 4 times to me. A baby will come forth. All right?
Well, yeah. Yeah, and see, the other thing, too, is I don't care if you want to play freak with each other. It's your business.
Right.
But don't try to mess me up because I don't go along with your program. I mean, when I did that show, almost every tape day there was some BS that had to do with some lesbians upset because they had to work on a set with a straight man.
Yes.
And it got to the point where I said, you can all go to hell. None of you are high enough on the food chain to find me. So drop dead. You know, all right, enough is enough. We're not doing another damn thing until this BS stops.
See,
you know.
They don't want.
All right. I told you over and over again to not tell these litigants to act up and try to talk over me. But you're trying to get them to do it. So we're stopping everything until this shit stops. You know.
See, Judge, though, that's because, see, being a real man that you are, it's easy for a person, I mean, I'm not trying to be a sycophant, but step in line under your leadership. You know what I mean? Because you're confident and you know where you want to go. And you're not scared to say the right things to get to where you need to go. That is a threat if I'm a sniveling worm trying to basically subvert young minds. Because you're not going to be, you know, when you're in the business of subversion, you're not in the business of telling the truth. You're in the business of swaying opinion, swaying behavior. Oh.
And see, here's the other bad thing about Hollywood. They control a lot of thought that goes on in the country. But can you imagine somebody that has devoted their entire adult life to make-believe, fantasy, and fiction?
Hold on, Judge, 1 second. I think we have a caller here. We got a caller, 702?
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you and the judge, get the reaction from you and the judge.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to give a name or something, or this caller?
You can just call me Brother Man. That's fine.
All right, Brother Man. Go ahead, Brother Man.
Right. So, Judge Joe Brown, you touched on something earlier, and it just triggered a thought. You talked about the Jews and how they use their own religious privilege to set up their own societal structure, and I thought that was a really good point that might need to be revisited, echoed, because, you know, for a long time during slavery, the European was able to go in the slave fields and rape whoever he wanted to rape.
Man or woman.
He wanted to rape. He raped your daughter, the grandmama, with impunity. There was no, he did what he wanted to do, and then it's like, but they pushed off on us Christianity. And along with Christianity, monogamy. It made it seem like it was something wrong with us for having, if not just one, but having more than one woman. There was a Langston Hughes book that was written back in the day, and it talked about how anybody who was somebody had more than one woman, and it was commonplace. But there's a guilt trip that keeps on brothers, and I mean of African descent, Afro-Asiatic descent, like something wrong with us, that we're able to hold down and treat with respect one woman or two women or three women. So, you know, I find that something that we ought to revisit, because it's like, in other words, once you have your own, if you are exercising your own religious freedom and your own divine rights, you're able to protect your sexuality. You're able to protect your community, because, you know, you can say, hey, this is my God-given right to be a man. This is my God-given right to be a husband, or this is my God-given right to be a father, to be a protector. Nobody can infringe upon that, because that's one thing that is built into the fabric of this country is religious rights. So I think that's something that ought to be echoed. Secondly is, you know, I had a thought while I was listening to the conversation. Like I said, it was a thought-provoking conversation. One of the thoughts that it provoked was, is atheism an arm of people who promote a homosexual agenda?
Wow.
Because it's like, by pushing this, there's no God exists, there's no such thing as creationism, there's no such as this. By giving people to ultimately say, okay, there's no God, then you're going to say there's no sin, and then you're going to ultimately go to there's no morality. Or that you get into this postmodernism, you know, in school they call it postmodernism, where you question whether there is a such thing as the truth, or whether there is a such thing as a lie. And now now you're spinning into oblivion. So I thought that was interesting, because now you got LGBTQRF, they just keep adding letters. And so it's like a child comes up to you and the child says, hey, I can fly. Let's say it's your niece or your nephew, and you care about your niece and your nephew, and your niece or nephew is 5 or 6 years old, and they say, I can fly. And you thinking to yourself, okay, it's all right for you to think that you can fly if you're jumping off the couch, you know, jumping off of the coffee table. You know, if you allow that kind of thing, you know, you allow them to be. But you don't want your niece or nephew or son or daughter thinking that they can fly and they can jump out of the second-story window or the third-story window. So you sit down and you try to reason with them. You say, okay, well, how high do you think you can fly? Or you might just be like me. You might say, no, you can't fly unless you got wings like a bird, and you've got a helicopter, or you know have a license to fly a helicopter. So I'm saying that when people say, well, I'm not a male, even though I was born with testicles and I was born with a phallus, I'm actually a female in a male's body. So then it's like you put me in the same position that you put a person in when a child wants to play imaginary games. Because then you say, okay, well, what's the rules for this? What are the rules for a person that does? And they get to make up stuff as you go along. Yes. Now we're in this little game. Now I got to play along with a game. Because you're really a male. You're really stripping women of their rights. Really, women have been pushed to the side, have been marginalized, are being demonized. Even, it's like just heterosexuality in and of itself. So that's another thought. That was provoked there. And the last thing I wanted to say was, I think that was everything right there. That's pretty much. I just get your reaction on those.
Well, thank you, brother, man.
Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you were at a large Black Christian church?
Honestly, Judge, it's been maybe like 15 years.
turn on the television and watch the Black evangelists, and watch all the little gay boys prancing around up there on the pulpit.
That's distasteful.
Now, I will put something else to you. You said atheism and promoting homosexuality. I would contend that's not really what the case is. China, the People's Republic of China, is officially atheistic. So is Russia. And both of them have some very severe and draconian laws against homosexuality. So why is it that the most permissive laws for homosexuality are in Christian countries with a lot of believers, and the most restrictive against them are in Muslim countries or in countries that are officially atheistic?
Can I answer that? The Catholic Church.
Go right ahead.
The Catholic Church, it promotes homosexualism. There's no human being, male or female, in the right mind he's talking about, I am not going to have the joy and benefit of a sexual relationship because of blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. It's only a cover for those weak minds that would accept such a crazy notion so that they can mask what they're really about. Not saying that all priests and nuns are not celibate. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the majority, probably a good 70 to 80% are straight up lesbian or homosexual.
Well, actually, historically, for the first 1300 years, they did not have to be celibate. But what went on is the Catholic Church wanted all that wealth to go to the church rather than going to associated families. So it worked out until about that time. Basically, about 50% of the priests were married. So then they had an edict saying they could not be, so they disinherited all the relatives, and all of the wealth went to the Catholic Church. It's a little economic plan they had. But just staying back to it, it always interested me that according to the religion that they're practicing, they are abominations. But you get all of the little gay boys prancing around proudly on stage, being gay, or the choir director is gay, minister of music is gay, if not the preacher himself, going both ways on occasion. So all of the congregation can be seen to, you have a problem. Not everybody like that, but you see a lot of it.
Yes, you do.
So I will say this. I used to take an informal survey. And in terms of the criminal acts that were committed, the only thing you'd ever find an atheist in your criminal court for would be something like bad checks, where his wife wrote one, he wrote one, he didn't realize, or something like that, economic. The more heinous the crime, the more religious the background of the person that committed the crime.
Judge, you're saying that religion, a person who's so devout in their religious edict, that will be the motivation for them to go out and murder
the person that is most devout is likely to be the one that commits the most heinous crime.
Wow.
You never find one of those fiends who was not raised in the church.
Wow. Judge, that's devastating.
See, that's a fact. People don't want to hear that. But you see, when you get an atheist or an agnostic, he does not need an outside principle to act right. He does it because he chooses to do so. It's like manhood. You don't need the police to get you to act right because the man in the mirror is what's telling you what you need to do. You get an atheist or an agnostic, it's the man in the mirror that tells them what to do. You get the religious types that are so confusing to them and so nebulous and so against free will that they will be the ones to do the most heinous stuff. For example, the worst ripoff, the most double-crossing stuff I've ever seen are from the saved. Why did you steal from this long-term employer? Well, I was saved. So the Lord worked in mysterious ways. He wasn't saved. He was a heathen. So the Lord told me that I could get what I wanted by taking it from him.
Oh, stop, Judge.
I heard that over and over and over. Why did you steal from?
God tells you to rape a chick, it's all good. God tells you to kill somebody, it's all good. God tells you to whatever to somebody in a negative fashion. It's supposed to be all good?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a perversion of righteousness.
You have no idea. Look, practicing law for a long time. Lawyer Brown, you've got Attorney Brown, you've got Reverend so-and-so on the line. Okay. What can I do for you, Reverend? Lawyer Brown, we got Deacon so-and-so. He's my number one deacon. He got a problem. He gonna come down and see you. Okay. I told him to stop at the credit union so he'd be sure and have your feet up. Okay. A while later, Attorney Brown, Mr. So-and-so is here. All right, send him in. He pulled out $10,000. Okay. The Reverend told me to go to the credit union. It's going to be vested. He throw, put your money back in your pocket. Tell me what your problem is. Okay, I tell you what. Ms. So-and-so, would you write this gentleman out a receipt for $350? Okay, if you got a minute, sir, just wait out in the waiting room. I think I can handle this pretty expeditiously. You make a couple of calls, send him on back. Okay, it's taken care of, no problem. That all it was? Yeah, I took care of it, no problem. Well, if you put your money in your pocket, put it back in the credit union. 45 minutes later, did Deacon so-and-so come through there? He did. Well, did he come down and take care of your fee? I said, he did. I know he paid you a lot. I said, that's not your business. That's confidential. You may ask him. Well, look, Lawyer Brown, the judge want to borrow $9,000 for the building fund. I said, you're not getting it from me. Well, I just sit that deacon down there and I said, you ripped this man off. That case was nowhere near worth that kind of money. And you had him, so you were trying to set him up. Well, the man's a fool. I said, but he's your deacon. And he's supposed to be part of your congregation. He's supposed to be leading you, the shepherd of the flock he's in. Yeah, but he's a fool. Well, why would you take advantage of a fool? Well, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and he's supposed to take advantage of a fool because the fool's parted up with his money. Look, don't call me again.
That's disgusting, Judge. I'm sorry, but that was disgusting. If that was a true man of the cloth behaving in that nature, that's why the whole faith is dying.
Oh, I used to get these too. Lawyer Brown, got a good sister in the congregation. She getting her check garnished. Well, okay, send it down. I won't charge anything. I'm not charging anything. I said, well, ma'am, you're paying. Let me just say this. You're going to have to go in front of the judge after filling out these papers. He's going to swear you in, and he's going to talk to you, and he's going to have to approve this fee schedule. Now, if you mess up on it, they'll start garnishing your check again, and there'll be no way to stop it until it's finished. I just said, but I'm going to tell you there are a couple of items on here the judge is not going to approve. Attorney Brown is this correct? This woman's paying almost 40% of her income to this church in tithes. That's correct, John. That can't be allowed. I'm going to set this at $5 every 2 months. That's about right, John. Later on. What do you mean, coincided, Lloyd Brown? Why did you let the judge put this in here? I said, because you're ripping this woman off. If you hadn't been so damn greedy and taking this woman's money, she wouldn't have had a problem. We depend on good members of the church like that to keep it supported. You trying to get a new fur coat for your wife's birthday. I heard that through the grapevine. So you go get your wife's fur coat, but I suggest you do something Christian charity-wise and give some of that money back from this fur coat to members in your congregation who are suffering because you've been pimping them.
Right. Social pimping. That's what they're doing. You know, they give you the glitter blood. It's a show. Get up there, sing and dance. Then you have all the drama behind the scenes, all the gossiping in the pews. It's a show. It's a big-ass production. It's a circus without the bread.
Well, that isn't really the worst part of it. Pimps think they can turn hoes out. They can't, but the preachers do. They just find one that a preacher has made into a good potential hoe. How? Because her mama, grandmama, aunts, and so forth go to this church. And they go 4, 5, 6 times a week, and the preacher begs them for every dime they don't have. Preacher tells them they're no good, low-down sinners. They're going to hell but for Jesus. And when they have a bake sale, if they sell 2 more slices of cake than somebody else, they get stood up in front of the congregation and recognized. Well, when the pimp tells the hoe that she's dumb, stupid, and ugly, she has a need, like a lot of humans do, to be accepted as she perceives herself, which is basically in a negative fashion because of what her mother, grandmother, and aunts have done raising her in the church. All right?
Right.
So they tell her as she's growing up, you just too pretty. I know you're going to be a trial in the tree, honey. Jesus just testing my faith. I know all these men's going to be a sniffing up under your pants. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when she sells $5 more booty per night than the pimp bottom hoe, she gets to walk in with him on his arm in the club or sit in front of the Cadillac with the pimp. All right? And giving her money to the pimp is easy because she's watching all of her female relatives give all the money they don't have to the preacher. And it works on from there. So the preacher can be counted on to diminish the self-esteem of a would-be hoe just along with her female relatives. So he comes in, he claims he trained somebody out. He can do a damn thing except have a nose for recognizing some woman who's got low self-esteem and has been worked like that in conditioning.
That's what it is, conditioning.
The pimps are some slimy son of a bitches, but some reform themselves. You can shake the slime off of you, but it's dangerous.
Is it because sort of like the Pandora box, they already got the knowledge of manipulation on a fundamental level?
It's like I used to represent a lot of pimps and hoes, and some of the Memphis pimps would go to Chicago and run the Chicago pimps off the block and go up to New York, and they'd fly me up there and associate with the local council to represent them. I like one group of pimps from Memphis. They get these good girls, church-going girls, and they'd get them, they'd kidnap them, lock them up, shoot them up with heroin for a few days until they got dependent. And then effectively they chain them to beds in little flop motels or hotels. And they would be chained to the bed, you know, they'd get 15, 20, 25, 30 tricks a day.
Wow. And
they wore out in OD in 2 or 3 months off of the heroin, and they wouldn't give a damn. They just leave the body to rot there in the hotel. That's how cold-blooded pimps can get.
But that requires those pimps to have a network. That would require those
doesn't require a network. What it is, see, the girls get isolated from everything, and they won't get off of what they call the hoe track. If they stay off of the hoe track, they got no problem. But they won't stay off the hoe track because they think they need money. And they get out there trying to sell by themselves, and the pimp just gives them, jacks them up, and bloodies them a bit. And they get back in line, and they look at the pimp as protecting them from the other pimps. Actually, all he's doing is jacking them up personally. Everybody else jumped them.
See, that's
so the two hardest things I had with dancers and hoes is getting them off the hoe track, or if they were dancers, getting them away from their girlfriends. See, if I had 100 strippers, 95 of them are lesbians.
That's true.
6 or 7 would go both ways, and you got 2 or 3 straight ones. And they would give their girlfriends all kinds of money for drugs. They're spending $29.95, used to be $59.95 a night in a motel. And hell, I started with some of the dancers. I started putting their money in an escrow account. And one of them went off on me when I first started doing it. She was trying to accuse me of stealing money. She wanted to know what kind of game I was running on her, trying to give her all this money. I said, I'm not giving you a damn thing. You earned it. I didn't earn this much money. Yes, you did. Oh, hell no. You earned every damn dime of it. I just put it away for you. Now you can get yourself an apartment and get the hell on out of here.
So she was actually defensive about...
Yes. I didn't earn that much money, but you did earn that much money. Here's your IRS shit. I've even got it set up so you can pay taxes on it, so ain't nobody gonna jack you behind. But my girlfriend mad at me because I ain't giving up. Damn your girlfriend. Your girlfriend ain't doing nothing but living off of you.
Right. A nothing-ass leech. That's what she's doing.
And then, I mean, and see, there's different kinds of hoes. Pimps got hoes that out on the block hustling. Pimps have call girls that ain't out on the block hustling. Pimps have girls that have 9-to-5 jobs.
Yep. But
they're still pimping them because they're stupid, because their female relatives made them hoes. Not necessarily selling booty, but just in that mindset where they look at themselves as worthless and subject to men's gonna be sniffing up under your pants.
That's crazy, but true.
And then these same hoes got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids.
That's going right down the old.
What kind of hell do you think the boys got out of this?
Now, I will say this. I think boys that grow up around, those whores actually are the guys that later become the pickup guys, because at a very young age, they already, those who are thinking, already see the game. They already see how the women are playing the dudes, how the women are being played by other dudes, and how as long as they get in that mindset of nothingness in their head, how people can have control over that woman.
That's not quite what they do. Here's the way they take it. They don't see real men. So what they look at is mama and her female relatives, who they look at as adults. So the way they take it is the adults that are in his life make it their business to exploit other adults.
Right.
So what he does is he looks at it is the way to get over is to exploit the opposite sex. So what you hear from him is, yeah, man, I got me 5 hoes take good care of me. 2 of them got good JOBs. One of them selling pussy on the block. One of them get AFDC and one get a crazy chick. They all take good care of me. They give me everything I need. That's what you hear from.
But now, realistically, Judge, though, what about the reality of, especially if they're shooting dope in the arm, of AIDS? As a gang killer, destroy the whole.
Oh well, look. Let me tell you about that. The Atlanta Centers for Disease Control sent a hit team down to Memphis. Okay, they had noted that going into the jail facilities, you were getting somewhere around 4 to 6% going in HIV positive. Okay, the guy that was the chief jailer was a confirmed Southern Baptist, and he would not let these people get tested until the feds came in there through the disease control thing and said, screw you, we're testing. They found out that if somebody had done 6 months' time, there was somewhere around a 60-70% probability that he had engaged in at least 5 or 6 voluntary or involuntary homosexual contacts. If he had done 14 months, it went up to somewhere around 90%. Now, there was a sister now dead that got an act passed that said any inmate between 18 and 25 had to be tested for HIV when he was admitted to the system and also when he was discharged. So what they were finding out was that in some cycles, you would get 42% of the people who were getting discharged had been exposed to HIV.
Oh, my God.
So I would have situations where, okay, this is Thursday, last week of the month, and what we're doing is having suspension or remainder of sentence. So I have 11 people with voluminous reports on the docket that day for suspension or remainder of sentence. No problem. Might be 10, 15 pages, but I can read quickly. So I'm becoming aware of the fact that 11 of these folk have had homosexual contacts with each other. All of them have gotten each other HIV positive, and they thought about going back to wives and girlfriends, wanting to be a good man now. And I'm going, if I let your ass out, this will be a death sentence.
Oh, my God. And that's happening right now, Judge. I mean, so we're going to
that was 20 years ago.
Oh, man. Because in my head, I'm thinking of all those girls that are prison boy chasers. You know, they're, oh, he's in jail, so he's, you know, and they, you know.
Well,
whatever.
let me tell you about the jail. In Memphis, Shelby County, Tennessee, there was a problem. Some 18 years ago, the stats showed that 62% of the black population, 35 and under, had gotten a felony conviction that lived in Shelby County. That meant they couldn't vote.
Right.
But what also happened is between 18 and 29 in certain majority black areas, like South Memphis, North Memphis, Orange Mound, places like that, you had a situation where 9 out of every 11 young black males between 18 and 29 were actually in jail or the penitentiary at any given time. Not on probation, not on parole, but actually in jail. And the 2 that were at large had been in and done time too. So you had this cycling effect where you got 2 males for basically 14 females, out of which 6 of those females would probably be in jail. So they were spreading themselves through. So these guys would have 9, 10, 15, 20, 28 children. There were several examples where they had between 45 and 50 children.
Wow.
Never provided support for any of them, but they were spreading HIV.
That's, I'm in my mind, I'm just seeing it this like a chain reaction. 1 person, 5 people, 10 people, 20. I mean,
it is called exponential.
Yes.
In other words, the old classic case was a wise man did something for the king, and the king said, "What is your reward that you seek?" He said, "Oh, king, just put 1 grain of seed of grain on the first board, double it on the second, double it on the third of the chessboard." Well, what happens is when you do it on an exponential basis like that, there wasn't enough grain in the whole kingdom once you got to the final square on the chessboard. Like, for example, when you talk about ancestry, okay, let's take roots. Kunta Kinte was Alex Haley's 10th generation ancestor from Africa, right?
Right.
How many other ancestors did he leave on? Well, you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. You have 1,024 ancestors on the 10th generation, not counting, adding all of them together.
Wow.
And then it's 2,048. It's 4,096. You see, and it goes up 9,000. 8,000, et cetera. It increases exponentially.
It does.
You see, I had a woman in my courtroom in 1994. She was 57 years old. She was in there on felony theft and drug charges. All right, and I became aware of the fact that she had a 43-year-old daughter who was also in front of me on the same kind of charges. In other words, she had a 43-year-old daughter when she was 14. That was her second oldest child. All right, let's take the 43-year-old daughter. The 43-year-old daughter had a 34-year-old daughter she had when she was 1 week shy of her 10th birthday. The 43-year-old also had a 32-year-old son in front of me. She had it 11. And a 31-year-old daughter she had at 12 years old. The 34-year-old daughter and the 43-year-old had a 21-year-old daughter in front of me, who, when I sentenced her, had an 11-year-old girl pregnant with her second child. So,
where's the
years
law? How come we're not busting these guys for pedophilia?
Well, it shows you an exponential increase.
Yeah.
About 14, 15 months later, the 57-year-old messed up. She's now 59. I yanked her back in. And so did her great-great-great-granddaughter, who was 21, now 23. Well, one particular week, I looked at the report, and I noticed that this woman had 342 lineal descendants. Well, I was making a comeback every 2 weeks with some paperwork filled out so I could eyeball her. Well, when she came back 2 weeks later, our lineal descendants had increased from 342 to 358. The 21-year-old, who was now 23, her 11-year-old was now 13 with 3 children. By the time I retired some years later, this 57-year-old woman, who was now 63, had more than 3,400 lineal descendants.
Not to be ignorant, but were these all what you would consider traditional black folks, or were there mixed race children, or
traditional black folk?
Wow. And no one's
some years later, in 2008, I learned that this woman was still alive, and 4 other women, one of whom was white, trailer park trash type situation. Between the 5 of them, in West Tennessee, they had almost 250,000 people that were related to them by descent.
That's insanity.
And 2002, they did a little study on this woman, and they determined that it was in my courtroom. They determined that there were only 2 kids in her extended family who had ever graduated from high school and had jobs. And these 2 were girls who were essentially kidnapped by their fathers when their mothers were in the penitentiary and taken to Chicago, where they graduated from school and got jobs.
But see, with a story like that, Judge, that opens up the whole door to, if it was not for the state providing food stamps and welfare, most of those descendants would not even have survived.
Well, in other words, you got 8 generations and nobody's ever had a job.
And
so what you have is sort of an environmental adaptation to a certain circumstance. In other words, you got an animal that produces with great proclivity. 8 generations later, they're adapted to eating a certain kind of grass or plant. Well, in this case, 8 generations later, they've adapted to welfare.
And
they can't survive without it because they do not have what it takes to survive in a modern society, but the state takes care of them. And they breed, and they don't just have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 kids. They've got 14, 16, and 18 kids, 9 kids, and they're all dysfunctional.
But my question is this, Judge. What's going to happen? And you already know the like the attitudes are kind of like the beans that we're talking about. If President Trump, or whatever, decides, let's get rid of welfare altogether. Bootstrap up, kids. What's going to
happen? I think they should. Welfare should be work fair. In other words, to get it, you have to go to school or you have to work at something. They're paying them any damn way. You might as well have to work on infrastructure. These are jobs where you need machines, and people are not going to be cut out of work because there's a lot of stuff, potholes that aren't being filled by these people that do work in construction. There is infrastructure that needs to be built back up that got built in the 1930s on the WPA under Roosevelt in the forest and in various places like that. It needs to be built up, and nobody's doing it. It's just decaying. There's a lot of stuff around the country that needs this kind of thing where the people are getting paid, or at least that way. You might as well make them go to school or work.
Well, what about a situation where we did it like this? All right. Women, you know, like we do it by age. Like everyone from, say, 35 to 18. All right. You know, if you're a male or woman, you go to the military. Women, you know, there's a lot for every soldier, mind you, there's 32 people behind them in logistic capacity to ensure that he's or she is capable to carry out the mission on the battlefront. So there's a huge logistical manpower need, and there will always be. So those folks.
Well, you can't do that now.
No, but I'm saying we can. Yes, we can.
No. There's a practical reason why you can't do it.
Why?
Man, you done lost your goddamn mind. You think I'm going to be doing all this push-up? Fuck you.
Oh.
Well, you're going to the stockade, sir. All right, well, I'll send my ass to the stockade. Ain't nothing but no damn jail. Hell, I ain't got no problem going to the penitentiary.
I see. Okay. I get you. Okay. But we see, because we're dealing with a different.
Take some of this high-tech stuff, and you take one of these morons who can't even count. I had a discourse with somebody a week ago. Wait a minute, young bro. What do you mean you got done wrong? You're 19 years old. You can't count. Give me change from a $20 bill. I gave you what I paid for was $8.04. How much change do I get back? I whispered to him, give me a 10, and you make believe that you're giving me a change from a 10. $8.04. That's $1.96 you give me back plus a $10 bill. He couldn't figure it out. How the hell are you going to have him in a high-tech military with complex computer-generated, targeting and guidance and all this other stuff?
See, that particular individual, you wouldn't. But you would have him on some military outpost being a janitor. You know?
That might be, except the problem is the United States has got a big problem. They got a joke they used to have. You take a typical private, lock him in a room for 24 hours with no windows and 2 bowling balls. And when you open it up, one bowling ball will be damaged and he won't know what happened to the second.
That's what I'm saying. We will have to change
now,
our approach.
You take a fool and you turn him loose with some of this equipment. See, by the way, a lot of it lays around, so it's not like you can hide this from a fool. See, they won't, even if they have manpower shortages, they won't take certain people in the military nowadays. They just can't cut it. Because it's high tech. They don't have this thing because people have computers and rockets and guided missiles, RPGs and all kinds of stuff. You got dedicated fanatics, and whether you're trying to deal with it, it costs more logistically to feed all of these people than they're worth on a battlefield or in support. That's what the problem is. These people are not the same as they were 50 years ago when they had to draft during the Nam, and that was even bad enough. They are definitely not the ones they had 75 years ago in World War II. This is different public. They got all these little sissified soft boys.
That's a terrifying thought, Judge. Because
the military,
what you're saying.
And I will offer this, 2011, based on the Census Bureau, the military did a series of, the Pentagon did a series of white papers. You know that thing they said, they have, we can make you tough. Mm-hmm. We can make you strong. They said in the white papers, we can make our recruits strong, but we can't make them tough because they have to come in here this way and because there are so few fathers.
Wow. That's how nations
it's bad. It's like they're not coming in here right.
Right. And you can't fix that.
Here's the statistic, and some people wanted to contest this with me. They said only 28% of each year's would-be high school graduates are male. Now, some people want to say that's a lie, it's 96%. Well, it may be 96% of those who are still in school. But when you count the males who are 18, 17, 19, who dropped out, for white folk, not just black, it's 28% of putting the black folk in there. They had a thing where they found that 42% of Americans 35 and under were born out of wedlock. And it was close to 80% 20 and under. So they're saying there aren't enough fathers to go around and toughen these boys up. We can make them physically strong, but we can't give them a tough mind.
Right.
See, that's how bad the problems got. And that goes to why you just can't put the thugs and the crooks off in the military.
But now don't you see how we just went right into a true national security issue? A real one?
Yeah, it is. That's exactly the point. This stuff has fallout. People don't get it. You have a situation where you're trying to diminish, if not destroy, masculinity. So all of these people that want to talk about I'm fluid, I can be 6 kinds of different genders and all whatever in the hell they fantasize about, they are not the ones upon whom the country depends to sustain itself. I mean, you can have a gay boy who wants to man up, be brave and courageous. I mean, you got the lights down, the great Julius Caesar. They were gay, but they were some badasses. But see, there's a lifestyle that goes along with it. And I like to throw this out to test people. I said, okay, just imagine it 1,000 years ago, you're coming back down a forest trail, and you've been out hunting to feed your folk, and you've got an antelope or a deer across your shoulders. And when you come around a curve, you become aware of a war party from a rival tribe getting ready to fall on your people. Nobody is there looking that you know. Do you sound the alarm and maybe put your life in danger, or do you sneak off without saying anything? The ones that I don't like invariably say, well, I'd sneak off. Well, you sneak off. Well, nobody's looking. I said, what about the most important witness in the world? Well, you said there was nobody there. I said, well, what about you? What's that got to do with anything? I'm going to get my ass out of there. Oh, yeah, there you go.
And those people die.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to sound like nihilistic, but sometimes it's better to die with your people.
Yeah, and in other words, you know what I think the difference is? They don't have a stake at the next generation to save.
I mean, I hate to say, Judge, but that's very uncomfortable. That thought right there. That it's really boils down to this: coward. Being a coward.
See, that's just cowardice. See, here's what your thing is. If you look at politics today and you back off of it and throw all of the emotional BS out of the way and get logical and rational, you will reach the conclusion these people that are running stuff act like they don't have a stake in tomorrow.
Right.
I see a lot of them that aren't out of the closet really are practicing, but they just haven't come out of the closet. See, one of the secrets about national politics and local politics is Democrat and Republican. There's a common thread. They're gay.
There it is.
And they have swing parties with each other and their wives, Republican and Democrats. and they get everybody confused about some bull agenda. And what they're doing is passing LGBTQ stuff because they like to swing and they like to party.
Mm-hmm.
And the Republicans are in league with big oil, and the Democrats are in league with high finance.
Right. And high five, once again, it kind of goes back to the whole Jewish international banker deal. Like, they subvert the whole country because our country, Judge, has been subverted psychologically.
Well, yeah, but see, I wouldn't say all Jews.
No, not all Jews. No.
I think that's unfair because there's some of them that are okay people you wouldn't even know. Like, for example, a lot of the stars, what's his name? Michael Douglas, Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're Jews. They just adopted the Anglo name.
Yeah, but they're not even real Jews, though, Judge. They are Jews that just adopted the true Jew. They are not the Jews that was written on.
Well, hold on 1 second. See, this is something we tend to do where we miss a point. You can be Jewish, but not practice. So you can be black, but not want to do anything with your stuff. You can be raised as a Christian, and people will identify you with it, but be as atheist as anybody out there. See, you can be a brother, and your mama can have said, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you're going nowhere else. And by the time you get grown, you're tired of that nonsense, and you empathize with Islam.
Yes, that's true.
So we make a mistake when we start dealing with putting somebody as a Jew, because that's like trying to characterize everybody that's black the same way. See, everybody that looks black is not going to be down with the cause.
That is true. Very
and
true.
Jews have an interesting thing that's like us. You know how you determine if somebody's a Jew?
How?
By the mother.
That's true. That is.
If it's anything but Jew, but the mother's Jew, you're Jewish. If the father's Jewish and the mother's not, then you're not a Jew. You got to get made Jew.
That is true. And they use that because, think about it, you don't have to worry about no Maury Povich with that situation. Yes, Marie, you are the mother. We all know she's the mother. Versus, it kind of segues to this, to make like the child laws real. Shouldn't every male have a DNA test of their offspring to ensure that it is indeed that DNA through them? You know what I mean? But that's.
But do you notice a similarity or something?
What's that?
What made you a slave? It wasn't your father's status. It was the status of your mother. That's just like if you are a Jew, it's not your father's status. It's the status of your mother.
Oh, wow. Then wait.
They had to have, like when they dealt with that thing with the Seminole scouts who looked black, but they worked with the U.S. Army, they never did do them like they did runaway or ex-slaves, because why? Their mothers weren't slaves.
Get out, Judge. Wow. That is the same thing as a Jew. The Jewish through the mother.
Yeah, now we get so off on getting down on Jews, we've got to back off of that a little bit and look at them. There's some lessons to be learned.
Such as?
How to get your shit together when you were being oppressed.
Wow.
See, we got lynched. They got burned at the stake.
Let me ask you this, Judge. When's the last time you saw a homeless Jewish man or a prostitute Jewish woman?
That's the point. You don't.
Wow. This is
now. Let me say this. We always are lamenting about lack of black enterprise. You ever been to Jamaica?
Not yet.
Go.
To Hawaii.
Beer mine. I got the gold mine. I got the get up model for my shop now, 7 a.m. mine. I be on Queen Elizabeth Highway mine. I be selling plantain and banana mine. His shop is a tar paper shack made out of cardboard. He's taped together with duct tape. But that's where his business is, and he knows supply and demand, cost analysis of a sort, and profit margins, and he's running a business. He doesn't have any education, but he understands business. We don't.
But that's by design, though, Judge. That's by our educational system not pushing the
Not just our educational system, it's this. If you go grade kindergarten through 12th grade and you get your stuff together, you can do what? You can go to college, right?
Yes.
What's to prevent you in a college today from taking economics?
Nothing.
How many black folk take economics?
Oh, well, because, I mean, I'm going to be real. A lot are stirred towards, a lot of us towards teaching or some sort of social impact-y type degree versus...
Exactly, but we have the option.
But do you think because deep down we don't have the belief that we will actually succeed in that industry? Once you get to...
I had one wife, my first one, was a real dumb bunny. But she had, what was her major? Philosophy. What the hell are you going to do with philosophy?
Right. You have to be standing on power to be able to philosophize.
All right. Or else you can get an MBA. Masters of Business Administration. How many black folk get MBAs? Interestingly enough, most of them who do are economic successes.
Because they're actually... Think about it, the weeding out process is so dire. If you have the passion, that's because you have that passion and you're going to do it, what it takes to achieve it. You know, to hell with the naysayers. But if you're just floating through, you're a kid, you don't really know, and you're just doing
hold on. Let's get real. It's still a matter of, are you willing to apply yourself hard enough to get this? See, we got to go party. You know, we got to go hang out even though we are in college. Go to a historically black school like Tennessee State, you know, used to be Tennessee A&I. It's like glorified high school. They have the merits and they have the detention hall. Why they got a detention hall in a university? You know, like, goddamn, I went there after I came back from California. You know, I got up in Nashville. So wait a goddamn minute. You have detention? What the hell is wrong with you? You have the merit? What? Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. You get sent to the dean because you missed the class? Hell, we didn't have to go. It was our money we were paying. We went if we wanted to.
Exactly.
Read your ass off and cram, you know, or you can go sit up in class.
But
I just think that is a bunch of high school. See, in other words, we did not grow up enough. Well, through kindergarten through 12th grade, the way the thing worked out, to be able to handle this. It was sickening.
Yeah.
The last I saw, I was down there. A friend went to Clark. The daughter's going to Clark. So we went to drop in and talk to the dean of students. She had a dilemma. You know what it was?
What was that?
Two mothers wanted to get in a fist fight because one girl was hollering about the other dissed her on the net, Facebook or something. So the two girls got in a fist fight right out in front of the administration office on campus in broad daylight. And they're seniors, 21 years old. And the dean is going, my God, I got to treat them like they're 15, 14 years old. And I treat the mothers like maybe they're in the 12th grade and the girls like they're in junior high in the 9th or 10th grade. 8th or 9th grade.
See, something that you had said on a past show pertaining to Ronald Reagan. We don't need education, and he destroyed that whole system that produced so many, educated people, technical people. Now we're headed to a situation, and Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of said this, to where our intellectual brain power is being shipped overseas. A lot of our scientists and technical folks are leaving the country to pursue their endeavors instead of staying here. It's like on the tech side, we're no longer number one now.
Well, let me talk some more about the parents. I helped this young lady. She's a scholar. She's graduated from honors. It's been a while since she got in. But her mother, who is now a judge, asked me to help move her down to the dorms, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're down there at Clark. And this is on the same campus with Spelman and Morehouse, okay? So we're trying to move the girl in, and there is this van, SUV, large one. I think it was a Navigator. And they had 3 women in it, and they were chain smoking, and they had a pile of cigarette butts outside the SUV. And they had parked right in the drive leading up to the dorm. So everybody kind of respectfully thought they were unloading. So, after 15 minutes, it's like, I can't drive. What do you mean you can't drive? Well, it's not my van. Well, who was in the van? Was she upstairs with her daughter? Well, you know where she is? Yeah. Well, can you go up? No, we don't feel like it. Well, the rest of them would like to help these girls move these trunks, several sets of parents, like these heavy trunks out of these vehicles. Well, you just have to move it. Just have to tote and fetch, Like, lady, you can't move the car? What's wrong with you? So they stayed there for 3 hours.
No way.
So nobody can do a damn thing while selfish helpers sit there, fat asses right there for 3 hours and will not move these vehicles. And wanted to cop an attitude when everybody, about 8 or 9 parents, will you please move? I ain't moving shit.
That attitude.
Yeah. So what we wound up doing was the parents, me and several other men, we just, along with a few other women, we just set up kind of a conveyor line, to try and pass this stuff up. I mean, they had us, so we had like 40, 45 yards to get to the front door with a lot of heavy stuff instead of being able to drive up and drop it off and move.
Right. In a rational way. Logical way.
Yeah. So one woman just got up and said, you take your fat heifer behinds up. You are some rude, crude, and she called them bitches and said, you are worthless. So what kind of dumb numbskull is going to this school that you got anything to do with? You can't take your lazy behind up there and get somebody to come down here. And what fool decided to park the vehicle in the middle of the goddamn drive anyway? And then what the hell is she doing upstairs for 3 damn hours?
Yes.
It's selfish. See, we got to revise that. These are grown women.
Yeah, but they're acting like 3-year-olds. I mean, think about it. They gave the reason why, let's be honest, the reason why they parked there so that their friend didn't have to walk all the way up the street up into the place, right? They were concerned, their friend's footstep. But they cannot show that same consideration to other human beings. They
well, yeah, but the idea, I'd advantage with one little salient point. These women are 50-ish, and all 3 of them claim not to have driver's licenses and don't know how to drive.
That's retarded right there.
Exactly. I think it was a lie, but the bottom line was to even say that.
Let you know what
kind of kid is going to be produced by this kind of background?
Oh. And then there's the uncomfortable bit.
And then 2 years later, 3 years later, I'm there talking to the dean. They're trying to talk to me about doing an adjunct professor thing. And the dean's at wit's end because 2 of the parents want to get in a fist fight behind their 2 dumb 21-year-old daughters want to get in a fist fight, which they actually did get in a fist fight. Because one of them supposedly ditched the other one on Facebook. Because she deleted her or something like that, or blocked her, or defriended her, or something like that.
We need to get with it with these little Facebook tangents. You know, if you can't handle the internet, just turn off your computer. Do the world a favor. Just turn off your computer and go on about your business. Read a book. You know, watch some of the programming on TV. Because I think it's pretty sad when you can't express yourself freely, no matter what you want to say on the internet. I mean, it's not like we're in a theater and someone's screaming out fire. You know, you can always log off or go to another website. Once again, though, that's that victim, mentality. I'm not going to change, Judge. You're going to change for me.
You can't be polite, courteous, and whatever. And most of these fools need to go to charm school.
They're probably flunked out of there too. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing
rude, crude behind charm school. And excuse my foul language, but I was quoting people. Go to charm school and get some booth, for goodness sakes.
Well, I know that you have seen, since you was a young boy to the point you are now, the shame meter in the country has gone down to zero. No one's shameful about nothing. People tell you the whole business like on Facebook, and no one wants to hear all of that. You know what I mean? But they do it just to for the attention, I believe. They call it being an attention.
Well, let me tell you another little anecdote. I was with a friend at a restaurant, and there were 4 or 5 large women at the table with 6 or 7 unruly kids who were running over the restaurant. So one of them was bragging about a male friend was showing up by that new man and she was going to stick him with everybody's tab. So we saw this guy drive up in a black Camaro. He got out. We walked on in. He looked over. They waved him over. He sat down, and then one of these kids ran off. So one of the women said, well, go get that boy. He said, can't you get him under control? So he went and got it. So he went and got 4 or 5 of the kids 3 or 4 times, And he said, look, I didn't come in here to get my exercise, getting up and down, dealing with these rugrats here. He said, you need to get them under control. Oh, you know what you're going to do. So anyway, another one got up. Go get him. All right. He got up, and they couldn't see him, but me and my friend could. He went over to the waiter and said, what's my tab? He said, no, I don't need the tab for the table. He said, what I ordered. He said, well, you haven't even gotten it, sir. He said, that's all right. Don't worry about it, but I'll pay for what I ordered. So he paid for what he ordered, knocked the table, and went on, got in the Camaro and left. Well, where is he? Where's Earl, or whatever his name was? Well, I don't know. Maybe he took the kid to the bathroom. Well, you better go change. So the kid was running around, and the manager said, ma'am, would you please keep your kid under control? Well, where's Earl? Earl? So when they came over looking for him, my friend and I said, well, the friend was a lady friend. She said, well, excuse me, he drive a black Camaro? I said, yeah, well, he's been gone for a half hour. He paid his tab and gone. He said he wasn't going to put up with this anymore.
Wow. They
wanted to get mad at him because they were trying to stick him with everybody's tab. They thought they were going to stick him with their tab. They were ordering everything on the menu.
What is this, though, Judge, about the parents and the kids just running rampant? I mean, it's like you can't step out of line and discipline someone else's child, but certainly there has to be some laws to, to ring that in.
There ought to be. I was at Olive Garden. Olive Garden sold unlimited salad bowl, soup, and breadsticks, right?
Right.
Well, I said, look, please, seek me someplace where there aren't any kids, all right? Okay. He sent me there with no kids. But the woman showed up with 4 kids. They didn't look all alike. They got different daddies, I can see. And she sat down in the booth behind me, and one of them kept kicking the booth. And I said, lady, can you control them to stop that? So her solution was, instead of stopping it, she just let them run wild through the restaurant. So one of them comes up to the end of my table. I'm sitting in the booth, and reaches over to grab a breadstick out in front of me. I said, oh, no. I knocked his hand back. Get away. I want one. I said, it's your problem. Go see your mama. You're supposed to share. I said, you're supposed to act like you got some kind of sense. Get out of my face.
Oh, my God. This kid was about ready to literally put food off your table.
Baby kids.
I mean, 2.0. What did the mom say? Did she say, any type of norm?
Well, I think they're supposed to share. I said, well, how are you part of your family?
That when you say teach your mom to share, to me, that's this code word to teach them how to be like a little socialist. Everything belongs to everybody. No one has possessions of anything.
Well, that's what it is. In other words, I thought it had been worked out, but mine is mine and what's yours is mine too.
Yes. It don't work like that, Judge. It really doesn't. It can't work like that. Because think about it. You know that attitude we was talking about, taking those fools from some sort of bad situation into the military? This thing, if they told you you have to work, I ain't going to go to work. I don't have to work. And yeah, nothing would get done.
Yeah, it's kind of sort of like, excuse me, I have a question. What's that? When did you lose your mind?
That's assuming they even have one to begin with. I mean, some of the things they do, and when I say they, I'm not specifying any one race of people. I'm saying people who have this certain ideal of how the world should work that is total fantasy. Total fantasy. Trust me, there's a lot of smart people who came before us, and a lot of smart and brilliant people who come after us, that wants to find an easier situation to distribute the resources amongst the people. That's always been the problem. How do we distribute the resources? And honestly, the best way to do it is to ensure that the most capable psychological people have access to positions of power that can determine the streams in which the resources will be distributed. Up until now, it's always been basically hereditary. Well, his dad owned the mine. You're going to own the mine. You're going to pass it to your son. He's going to own the mine.
Hey, look. Black folk aren't the only one that have these problems either.
True.
I've been to some Hollywood functions, house party type things, family house party type things. And out in the back, I remember this party. It was a yard party. It sounded like the convention of child psychologists. Jonathan, you're making mother feel nervous. Please come down out of that tree. Mother's so worried that you might get hurt. I don't want to, Mama. Jonathan, Mother's going to cry, etc. Well, I could see what was going to happen. And the kid was on this branch he shouldn't have been on, and it broke. He fell, and I guess he fractured his wrist. Instead of taking the kid to the emergency room, it was no big deal. She's got to call the ambulance. She's going through hysteria, and they got to help revive her thumb behind. And of course, the kid didn't learn much of a lesson except he just elicited more sympathy from mama for acting a fool.
True.
But you see, another thing I think about, this is a lesson how not to have this happen. I used to be a scoutmaster. So I would hold classes for these kids' mamas on how to get them to act right. I said, now look, he'll never do anything. I said, that's because you don't require him to do something. I can't get in three of his rooms. So what I would do is volunteer to come over to the woman's house and show her how to get this together. I said, okay, first thing, you want him to clean up. Did you ever show him how to fold socks and fold this stuff?
Right.
Well, no, I figured he could figure it out. Well, okay, let's do it. So I would take 2 weeks to do this, and what I would do is I'd show the kid how to fold, how to do the socks, where they went. So I said, what do you do now? Well, he can do. I said, no, that's not going to work. I said, what you have to do is just like in the Army. You stand over him like the DI does, and you watch him do the task.
Right.
What he does is you give him an opportunity every now and then. You take 3 minutes to go answer the phone, but don't stay on it. You go look out the window and you leave him and see if he's still doing it when he comes back, and then you sort of test him and you see, did he learn the skill? Did he do it? If he didn't do it, is it because he doesn't understand it, or because is it an attitude thing? So you adjust accordingly.
Right.
And you stand over the child, put that sock there. No, we're not going to throw him in the drawer. Put him in the drawer. Put this in, fold. No, that's not going to do it here. Unfold it, fold it again.
Right.
And then eventually you'll be able to go about your business because now he's got it down.
Yeah, exactly. How can you sit there and expect this child to know this and not actually get hands-on to teach him the first time or for several times?
Oh, the ones that get me, I said, you don't know about the OLSD thing, do you? What's an OLSD? I'm going to tell you. But you see, instead of having your child do it, you just say, oh, let me do it. You don't want to take the time to train the child to do it. What's an OLSD? An OLSD is an organic labor-saving device, also known as a well-trained child.
Organic labor-saving device. Yeah.
Now, you dumb bunny, you're doing all this labor that you got an organic labor-saving device right in front of you to do.
That's funny. That is. Because people, once again, people, if you don't know how to use a tool, whether you're old or not, you're not going to utilize it effectively.
There you go.
There's no food like an old food. Well, you know, we've been going on basically 3 hours, and I know that it's Friday night. I know you're probably busy, Judge. Poor Brian. I'm actually going to interview him tomorrow at noon on Special Report. But I just want to say personally, thank you, Judge. Seriously, thank you for like the hard topics we talked tonight. You know, getting people's right. You know, because I remember back in the early or late 2000s, like 2010, 2009, and everyone's harping on about the New World Order, you know. And then when Obama left office, you know, that kind of toned down, and we're going back to the old school rhetoric of, you know, basically, you know, it's the Middle East, they're the problem. There's always some other entities that is the problem. Never pointing the mirror at ourselves and saying, no, the problem is we have neglected our own workers here on the home front. We have.
That's part of the process. That's part of the process. See, to get unity,
yes,
and effective cohesion, you blame somebody else. Now they're blaming outside, but America is particularly cohesive because they've also got us to blame.
See, that's the hard part right there, and that's the hard truth, Judge. Is that at the end of the day, they can point the finger at us and say we're the problem. People, yep, you're right, they're the problem, and start throwing bottles, the proverbial bottle at us.
Mm-hmm.
And what can change that, though, Judge?
Well, one of the things that can change it is we need to do what we can to create a new fad. See, fads take about 6 weeks to spread nationally in an old-time market, and they're even more quick to be done now. And start spreading some positive fads. Late 60s, the fad was dashikis, afros, and, consciousness that there was another way and not being shamed of being black. I'm black and I'm brown.
Right.
We need to get something equivalent like that. We also need to start pushing manhood, because guess what? When you get a boy fixed on manhood, guess what he has? He's got a cause. He's part of a team.
Yes. He
goes rah, 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 and he's not adrift. Not, oh my God, a man ain't nothing happening, man. I'm surprised I'm 24 and I ain't dead, man. You got a cause, see.
Something to live for. And I know it sounds so simple, but these are fundamental truths.
Well, let me tell you how it's simple. It's difficult in the execution, but it works. Now, for 10 years when I was a criminal court judge, got elected to 2 8-year terms. The statewide felony recidivism rate was 80%. In my courtroom, it wasn't but 18, because I went to the jails and I went out to the houses and I conducted classes on manhood. See, I had the authority to make somebody do something like a parent had.
Right.
And I exercised it conscientiously. You need a job? Well, okay. What I did is went out with the unions and said, look, I'm going to send you some people. Well, no, we're not. I said, no, I don't want you to have competition. I want you to make them apprentices. So when they get through, they'll be paying union dues. Oh, shit. Yes, okay, let's go do that.
Win-win. That's how you was able to do it. You got those union boys aboard. Oh, shit, we're going to get fucking dues out of it? They jumped all over. That's a win-win. That's great.
Yeah, and so you start using your head. Most of the people on the criminal bench are scared as hell of the people that are in front of them. You couldn't get them to walk where the defendants are that they serve in the courts that they preside over. They're having a damn clue. They want to get through and get to their damn golf game. Or get home to suburbia.
So true.
And when it comes time to selecting these judges, we pay no damn attention. We can tell you who the most nondescript basketball player is, but we can't tell you about who's sitting on the criminal bench. We can talk about congressmen, but congressmen don't do shit for you. The mayor can't do damn thing, maybe except point the director of police in some jurisdictions. But the judges can lock you up, grant you a divorce, require child support, grant custody, set bonds, put you on probation, send you to jail, dismiss charges.
Dang. I mean, seriously, when you put it like that, they got a lot of power over you.
Well, yeah, and I'll give you an example. They got this thing where they had these sample ballots, and some unscrupulous sharks go out and make a lot of money every election season putting these ballots out where people pay to get on them, and the people that pay to get on them are not necessarily good people. Like they had one clown that for the longest time got the black bloc vote because he paid to be on everybody's ballot. But his history, he's been formerly the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan and chairman of the White Citizens Council, but he always got the black bloc vote because he was on everybody's ballot.
What?
And he was a crazy son of a bitch anyway. When I got on the bench and I was a judge too, I'd regularly tell his ass about, I'd tell him off about
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how to like not to cuss. I said, you know, you are a real sick SOB.
You know, that guy probably had more respect for you because you didn't take his crap.
Yeah.
You know, versus some, you know, get along to whatever alone. You know, you let that fool know. So when he went home, because don't forget, everything you said to him psychologically was like a razor blade. You was cutting him up. Bam, bam, bam. He'll go home and lick those wounds.
Well, let me tell you what an old white judge told me 40 years ago. He said, Lloyd Brown, don't get this wrong. He said, there's a relation between white folk and black folk is kind of like that between people and dogs. I'm listening. He said, but understand, dogs are members of some folk family. They got dog lovers. You know, when something happens to the family dog, everybody crying like they lost grandma. You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know about that. Say, but there's different kind of dogs. Now, that dog I got around my house, he get closer to my wife's cookie than I get, but every 6 months. And she put a pink ribbon around his neck. He feeds better than most people in the world. Yeah, they got, you know, the neighborhood dog want to come crap in your yard. Want to go kick him to go. Hell no, not my yard. And then they got them junkyard dogs, them slavering beasts behind it chain link fence. And you a damn fool if you hop the chain link fence to go wherever one of them slavering crazy dogs. He said, but then they got them special kind of dogs. You know, the kind that even if they behind the fence, you walk on the other side of the street, or even better still, you don't walk down that street. You know what I'm saying? I said, yeah, I know what they're going to do. He said, now, and you got to be one of them kind of dogs so white folks respect you. In other words, they ain't going to mess with you unless they willing to go all the way to mess with you. And like not, they may get hurt doing it. And better still, be a wolf. He said, you know what the difference between one of them dogs is and a wolf? I said, no, sir, go ahead. He said, the wolf feed itself. Said the other kind of badass dog, he still got to get somebody to open the kibbles and bits for him.
Oh my God. I was hoping he was going to say to be a wolf, that means you pack up with other dogs and you band together. But the feed yourself is better.
And no, that was worse.
Wow.
He also said they named trains and places after engines. I got a Toyota in my garage that my wife drives, and my brother got shot 3 times in Iwo Jima fighting them Japanese. I got a Mercedes in my driveway. I got shot twice. Ardennes at the Battle of the Bombs by them goddamn Nazis. But they fight, and you respect them. You people ain't never had no fight with them.
So how can you have any respect?
Yeah, and somebody said, well, what about civil rights? There ain't no fight when you down on your knees and some redneck beating your head and just some old rednecks feel guilty about it. That's just getting your ass whooped.
It's almost like a perverted ceasefire. Instead of all hostilities truly ending, no, we're just going to stop beating you down. You know, we'll resume it whenever we feel like it, Ferguson. But, you know, we'll just stop beating you down for now.
Yeah, well, he said, you know, white boys, they get to fighting behind the roadhouse when they's 20, 23 years old. One of them beat the other one, but if both of them put up a good fight, they become good friends for life. The one that get whooped follow the one that did the whooping unless he's smarter than the one that did the whooping protected.
That's true.
He said, your people around here just don't stand up for themselves. That's
true. Because, you know, a lot of us, it goes back to being a coward, Judge. A lot of us, we saw old boy stand up, he got squashed. So what does that have to do with you?
Yeah, see, we don't teach our children bravery and courage. We have some boys in the hood who are suicidal, and they ain't going after all of this combat behind being brave and courageous. Basically, when I had them analyzed with this panel of doctors, they showed extreme suicidal ideation and their motivation behind the drug use, And the violence was to provoke somebody into doing them the favor of taking their life and using drugs because it became a socially acceptable form of suicide.
Or sort of like the bottle. It gave them liquid courage to go ahead with their little kamikaze plan.
Well, maybe, but if you ever read the book The Godfather by Mario Puzo, there is this fiend in there named Luca Brasi. He's a hitman you see in the movie that only the Godfather would talk to. Everybody else was scared of him. Well, the Godfather tells Michael he needs to find a Luca. Well, he says Luca hates his own guts, but he doesn't have the nerve to pull the trigger on himself. So he will kill, mess with anybody, any place, hoping that person will do him the favor of killing him. He'll do anything for me because I'm the only person in the world he doesn't want to be the one that kills him. So find you one. And we found all this suicidal ideation, which is why I said several hours ago that the death penalty was not a deterrent to murder, because a lot of people, well, another anecdote, the only 2 times I ever had anybody go off on my courtroom, the real one, was when the state announced they were not seeking the death penalty, and the fool first one jumped up and said, "Ooh, what the hell you think I killed the SOB for? I'm going to kill me. I am not spending any damn time up in any damn jail. You're going to have to kill me."
Wow.
And the other one was about the same.
Wow, these guys are wanting death that bad.
Yeah. And see, on drugs, it's like, oh my God, did you hear about poor Thompson last week? No, what happened? Oh my God, he was running around talking about life had no meaning. Well, yes, I remember that. Well, he jumped from 28th floor of his father's office building. Oh my God, how horrible. What you hear, man, you hear what happened to Stomp, man? Oh man, whatever. Man, we was over Sugar Daddy's, man. Man, we was hitting that glass dick, man. It was some fire smoke. I'm going to tell you, man. Next thing we knew, man, stomped down on the ground on his back, man. Do heels, kick it, man. Phone come all out, do his mouth, man. Eyes done rolled up the top of his head. Man, we called 911, man, but it was too late, man. Bust dude's heart out before he could get to the emergency room. Man, hope his mama don't freak. Ain't that the second one she done lost this year? Drugs and claims another victim in South Chicago. Oh, hell no. He killed himself. They know that stuff will kill him. Why are they doing it?
Because of the one thing that we keep on talking about, and it skirted around this whole conversation, the economic ramifications of not receiving resources that you believe you think you should receive, whether it's an Armani suit, a Porsche, a fat house, whatever it is. And the realization that you will never attain these physical goods or services gets that.
And the realization that you had a chance if you're that smart and you missed out on it. Remember, kindergarten through 12th grade will open all the doors for the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes. That is 100% true.
Well, let's see, we've been on the phone 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 35 seconds. Mark. Brother, I got to get off.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, Judge.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Bye. Wow, guys. Wow, that was a show, man. Judge Joe, Brian Furman will be cracking. Also, if you want to support the show, I do have a Patreon account. Dimebag has a Patreon account now. Also, if you live in the Festus, Crystal City area, you have an old clunker, you want to try to get a loan, go to TitleMax. Let them know that Special Report sent you down there, and that would also help the show immensely. Get a loan through them, and the show is taken care of. So a lot of things are going on that's going good. Tomorrow on Special Report, we have Brian Furman from V's Cracking. We're going to go into an in-depth conversation with him. Hopefully, later on, next couple of weeks, we'll have L.A. Mazzelli. Right now, his pad out there in California has been burnt to a crisp by the fire, you know. And also, I've been meaning to talk to John Laird to get him back on as well, and to talk about perhaps these fires were the result of directed energy weapons, space-based technology. Basically, the World War III or whatever, if you want to say it, it's already occurring in small increments, and this is the crescendo escalation to that. And as usual, I will try to get Mark from Anaheim back on the show as well. I mean, I know that he's having communications problems, and you know, he kind of, you know, doesn't want to really be in the spotlight, you know, do interviews and all that, but all that's subject to change, you know. Nothing's written in stone, guys. Well, this has been the Other Morning Show. I'm True Father's Mind. Today's date is 12/7/2018, the year of our Lord. And I want to give a special shout out. This show was dedicated to every man and woman and child that died during WW2. Because as we know, in 1941, it was on this day that the wheels started grinding towards the inevitable conclusion. And that is the dropping of the atomic bomb. And one thing I never did understand, if we have the atomic bomb, then why do we continue weapons development? People step out of line, just blow them to smithereens. But that's a topic for another conversation. Thank you all for the support. Thank you, Brother Man, for calling in. Thank you for all the comments on the sidebar. And I'm out of here. Peace.